Hello. Hello.
Did you see it?
I am getting there. Blah, blah, blah. Yabba, 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 yabba. Yeah, blah, blah. Hey, beep, beep, beep. Yeah. You ever have those days?
Boobies!
No, not the boobies days. I will be real with you. I do like boobies, but not that kind of day. But you ever have those days where you don't want to do anything at all?
Lemon.
You don't want to do anything, but then your body also wants to be like, oh, you should eat. And it's like, why the fuck do I want to eat if I'm not doing anything all day? There's no good purpose to it. There is no good reason for me to, like, eat if I don't need to do anything today. Hey there, Furry Cures. Furry Cures has made it first into the chat, and joining us is... Let's see. We got Axel Wolf. We got Jason in the chat. God damn it, stealing my shirt already and shit. We got Unnamed, who, I'm gonna be real with you, you're off until January 3rd, so anarchy with your sleep schedule. Woo! Anarchy! How does it... Tell me how it feels after, like, I will be on... God damn it. Furry Cure is just hitting me with everything. Hi there, Xerix. You will be miserable by Thursday. Sounds about right. Sounds about right for someone who thinks I can fuck up my schedule every day of the week. What is the worst that can possibly happen? A lot of things. A lot of things can go horribly wrong by the time it gets to Thursday. Right now, we're into Saturday right now. Like, I think actually, it's like nearly everyone is on Saturday on this one, except for the New Zealanders. Wait, no, not the New Zealanders. Other way around. Except for... Words fail me, but I know there's some people who are not yet at the... on the Saturday thingy-madiggy, but hopefully, I'm pretty sure most of the Americans are. Monster Hunter World on PC, and you're gonna try that at some point? Nice! I have Monster Hunter World on the PlayStation 4, and I could not be fucked. Like, look, I don't know how people handle this, but especially when you have, like, no free time whatsoever like me, where it's not gonna pop up. Like, I have maybe a week to myself when, like, I actually go on my Christmas break. But then the minute that week is up, I have to, or not even when the week is up, on, like, basically a Friday or a Saturday, I have to travel on train for 3 hours to meet up with one side of the family. I gotta handle them, like, 1 or 2 nights in, like, a bit of a shitty bed before we go into, like, an Airbnb, because my grandfather is coming in from the States, and my grandfather doesn't want to go for, like, a hotel. He wants to go for an Airbnb. So we're doing that. Or he doesn't want to go for a vacation home, but an Airbnb, because vacation homes are not a thing in Australia, which I think is really fucking weird. In all of this realm of, like, oh, like, Australians just taking all the property and some shit, especially when they have lots and lots of money, for whatever reason, there isn't, like, a proper, like, system, like, real estate system of, oh, here are holiday homes that are, you know, just explicitly for holidays, and they've been able to make the rates work all year round, like airline tickets. No, instead, it's an Airbnb thing where you're just sort of left to the mercy of whoever the fuck wants to put their property on the market, and what's more is not a guarantee of, like, you know, proper rules and what have you. Because guess what? When you fuck shit up in an Airbnb, there's very little that the owner of the Airbnb can do once you've skedaddled. Like, if you do damages in their property or some shit like that, you can only be liable for, like, some of it. And, like, if you just close your account right that second and you're, like, in another country entirely, what the fuck is Airbnb gonna do for you? Nothing. It's gonna do absolute fuck all, because it's not worth the investigation in trying to track down this person you let into your home and who has decided to, like, fuck up your toilet because they decide to have shitting with golf balls or something like that. Steam is holding a Capcom sale. Oh, I have no monies. I have no monies to put in towards the, into the whatsamahoozies, into the thingy-madiggies, and, why am I all caps? Hang on a sec. Ah! God damn it. Alright, fine. We're going into the game. You must add me onto Final Fantasy XIV? That is true. I thought there was going to be a really good way of adding friends in Final Fantasy XIV without getting into Final Fantasy XIV. That is entirely false. I am sorry for gaslighting you like that. There is not a way to add friends in Final Fantasy XIV without going into the video game Final Fantasy XIV. It's so annoying. But yeah, wait, what am I missing? So yeah, Capcom is holding a... So Steam is holding a Capcom sale. I can't contribute to that because I have no monies. I had a week for Christmas break, so you burnt all my vacation days to get me a near month off. Nice! I didn't burn all my vacation days, and I think I'm getting a month off. I don't take a lot of breaks. We'll join you after dinner. Hi, Code! Be thankful you guys don't have to deal with properties being turned into holiday homes. 90% of the homes me and my family try to get in the past got turned into vacation homes. Xerix, come here. Xerix. Are you in Australia right now? Because let me tell you, the woes of property is very much felt here. It is very much felt here. If there's something that Americans and Australians can communicate about in terms of like, oh, this is absolute shit, it's property, it's real estate, it's land, it's fucking stupid, it's fucking annoying. And there's very little to go. Like, here's a fun fact. Oh my god, who did that?
Thank you, unnamed 471 for the 2-month tier 1 sub.
2 months? Thank you so much for the 2-month on some sub streak. I really appreciate it. You don't have to deal with advertisement when they come along. Shall I join a VC in the server? In a minute. In a minute.
Furry Cures 1221 paid me to say go suck a lemon.
You go suck a lemon. Oh my god, there's the friend request. With the warden defeated, I believe our work here is done. It is time we go together, needless to say, to the bitter end. The fate of our 2 worlds being at stake and all that. Now then, I suggest we hurry back to the Crystarium. Much and more may have happened while we were frolicking with the Fey folk. That Ranjit elected to pursue us makes me hopeful the city was spared Ulmore's attention, but I would sooner see for myself. Besides, I believe I speak for all of us when I say that I've had a belly full of Ilmeg. Let us away before the fairies think to play with us again. Alright, so may as well sub since you're in the simp stream. Cookie for Leon Hart. How you doing? I am doing it relatively okay. Hang on, what else is? No, but my state apparently loves grabbing property like trading cards after the stock market crashed. Oh. Australia doesn't need a stock market crash to have people start like grabbing money or grabbing real estate. It is fucking terrible. Like, we didn't have like an economic crisis in 2008 here in Australia, but I'm gonna be real with you. If it did happen, there would be so many more properties owned by so many more people. Like, this is like, let me come here closer. We had a dude on the radio when they were talking about like, oh, like these interest rate increases and then the price hikes and rents going up with it feels a little bit unfair and such when the, you know, most rentals there's like very little done by the owner to help support the rentals in terms of like keeping up maintenance or anything like that. And this guy on a radio station like calls up the radio station. He's like, listen, like it's really tough, like trying to, you know, deal with this cost of living and the rise of the interest rates. And, you know, these properties are my best way of doing this. And the radio guy's just like, just clarify something for me. How many properties do you have? I don't know why this dude gave us this number. He could have been lying. He could have lied to us, and he could have been lying with this one, but this one just felt so, like, sincere. He was just like, he's like, currently I'm managing 231 properties of my own. The dude was fucking, like, when this wasn't like, oh, here's me with my property, and then here's another property or two trying to, like, you know, get a little bit money on the side. He sounded extremely proud. No, he did not sound proud. He did not sound proud. This was a man. Let me find the radio. Hang on. Someone must have recorded this shit. Open a new tab. Australia radio rental 200 properties. Hang on a second. Here it is. Like, landlord reveals he owns almost 300 properties and talkback radio call. Oh my, 3 minutes. Oh my. All right, let's see if we can. Oh, so I need to pause the music on the side. All righty, hang on. Is this the call? I just need to wait for it to load. So, Sydney's 2GB reveal. Hi, Zarex. If you're wondering why, like, why the Greens do not want rents to increase in Sydney, Sydney is like, there's 2 cities in Australia that are in the top 10 most expensive places to live worldwide. It is Sydney and Melbourne. Do you know where most people in Australia are living right now? Sydney and Melbourne. It is fucking crazy. 90% of the Australian population is along the coastline. It's like, it's basically just sort of, imagine if all of America just situated New York. Imagine the craziness of that. Like 49 of your states now sitting in one state. Fucking ridiculous. So yeah. Oh my god. Like, hang on. Copy link. I'll like dink donk. So there's the fucking we need taller skyscrapers. Here's the problem is that like most options of like, oh, let's go for high density, low income housing. No one wants that in Australia because it lowers the property value. And it's like, for fuck's sake, Greta, you are living on your own. You're 80 years old in a property that is worth $2.4 billion. $2.4 million. You're never leaving it. Why the fuck? Any whoosies. Oh my god. Wait, why people? I won it from a giveaway, but it's technically the one you got from playing before the pillage. So yeah, I'm gonna play that in the background just so I can have a listen. I have the fat chocobo. Hang on a second. So, alright, so we need to speak with Alize at the Cristarum. If I'm happy with a tenant, I'll modify it as much as I can. Like, come on. If I like a tenant, don't change anything. If you like the tenant, don't change fucking shit, okay? You don't need to raise the price by $10 a year. Okay, so a super in Australia is a superannuation where it's basically like a 401k or a retirement package over in the US where basically a work has to have a portion of your pay goes into taxes. That's inevitable. But the thing is that work can also like in order to help like lower the amount of tax you have to pay on your rent, they will also have a portion go into a superannuation, which is basically a separate like sort of trust fund that over the years will accumulate interest because it's going through like a bank that's like going to be using the money to invest in what have you. When you reach a certain age, you're then freely able to get money from the superannuation, and it's normally done through like periodic payment. So the idea is that like, you know, after working for like 30 to 40 years or some crazy amount that you'll have a large sum of money that's sitting in the superannuation, and it, you know, portions of it gets withdrawn and given to you, and it's normally more than what you've had to put in the first place, because it's one of those, you know, classic cases of like, oh, by having tens of thousands of dollars, and then each year it increases by 3% because banks are fucking greedy and trying to make money via investments, it will, like, you know, accumulate. So ideally, by the time you retire and shit, you've got like hundreds of thousands of dollars that's just going to be slowly sent to you over time. So then that way you don't have to work, and, you know, you still get paid, and it will help like pay for the cost of living, rent, electricity, and yada, yada, yada. So when this guy is like, oh, like, I don't have a superannuation and such, it's like, that's cool, mate, but it's not like you don't have these properties by the time you retire. You will still have them. And if you don't want to manage them, you can have them to a real estate agent on based on contract, so that they're managing it and they have a portion of whatever profits go back into you. Yeah. So $7,000 a year. $7,000 a year, and it's across 280 properties, 283. Like, hang on a sec, let me get a fucking calculator out. So like, in order to like keep this property, so $7,000 a year, 1, 2, 3, divided by 283. So basically, for each property he owns, he's complaining that his tax increases by $24 a year. $24 a year because he has 283 properties. $7,000 at the end of the year. Like, my brother in Christ, you have it so fucking well. Most people aren't asking for 200 properties. Not even asking for 2 properties. We just want 1. That's it. Just 1. And it's so dumb in Australia because here's the thing as well. Fun fact, in Australia, if you want to get a home loan, it's not, you don't have any sort of thingamajiggy with the government can give you a sort of first homeowner's grant, where the idea is that they're able to give you a portion, so then that way it goes towards normally your deposit, so you don't have to save like 20% of, you know, a $700,000 property or more in order to, like, you know, give a deposit to the bank and then, you know, do the loan payment and yada yada yada. Any whoosies. In Australia, you will get a fixed interest rate. You go suck a lemon. You will get a fixed interest rate in Australia, and that will probably last you 2 to 5 years. And then they, you know, and then the banks put you on a variable, which means that the interest rate that you, like, you know, got in on, it could change. Now, the idea behind it is that for the banks, if the interest rate goes down, benefit to you, your interest rates can go down as well. But let's be fucking real. Let's be real. Interest rates, unless they're not going to go down. They're not going to go down. It's a fucking weirdy ass scenario of like, oh, we need to, like, unless you have to encourage people to, like, do a lot of transactions and shit so we don't hold on to money, unless you need to convince people to do that, it's not going to go down. Interest rates are going to go up. So what happens is after 3 to 5 years, and most people are complaining about the fact that, you know, because the interest rates right now, I think, are 7% or more. And because you go to a bank, not the government for your loan, by the by, a bank, it's not 7%. It's more like 10%. So you try and get like a fixed interest rate and what have you. And then after that time period, it's variable. Now you may be asking, it's like, well, can't you get an option where it's just the one interest rate for the entire mortgage? No. That does not exist in Australia. There is no way you can get a home loan in Australia that is just the one interest rate forever. It's impossible. You will be like laughed at from the banks or what have you. They are not interested in giving you a worthwhile interest rate of that caliber where it's like, oh, it's a shitty year because it's 2023. We're currently, like, hang on a sec. Let me go for Bank of Australia, I think, is one of them. Bank of Australia. Bank Australia. Alrighty then. So if you wanted to go for a home loan, your options are interest rate 6.15% per annum. And as far as I know, based on principal plus interest rates, it's at a repayments at a variable rate. So it's like so many companies took advantage of the pandemic to hurt everyone. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It's absolutely fucking horrendous. But yeah. Ah. That is nothing to sneeze at when you have that much money. Exactly. 280 at whatever per month each. This guy shits money. Let's just go for a very conservative number where 283 properties is about, let's say, $1,000 a month. So if there's 283 properties and he's getting like $1,000 a month, which, let's be real, I spend more than $1,000 a month on my rent. That's $250,000 in rent across 283 properties. Now, you might be able to argue that he, like, obviously he doesn't get all of that, because there's a case of that, because whenever you're renting property and shit like that, like, he's probably going to have to pay utilities or, you know, a little bit of the council rates and shit like that, but he's not responsible for water in a lot of places. He's not responsible for energy. He's definitely not responsible for the internet bill. He's not responsible for a lot of those different things. Ugh. So yeah, my favorite part of the audio is what the guy is about to say next. Oh, I closed that tab. Hang on a second. Control Shift T. Hang on a second. So it was like in a minute 30. Here it is. I worked hard for that. That is just, oh, imagine imagine Musk or Bezos or Gates even telling you this, like, after they're like, oh, I donated a couple $1 million, and it's like, oh, how what's your net worth? I worked hard for that. Worked hard how? Dude, most 17-year-olds today can't afford a home. Probably used dollar bills as you probably could have. So yeah, alrighty, hang on a sec. Now I need to... Well, so my parents helped me out with a small loan of 100. I'll need to listen, like, cause I'm gonna be real. I only ever heard the 283 and the news presenter just going, "What?" Oh, this is. Hi, Sash.
All seems well at the Crystarium.
Yes.
Hi.
Yulmore was plainly more concerned with finding us. How flattering.
Did you listen to the 2GB Sydney radio, the Ben Fordham full show? Oh my god, is he just revealing himself now?
You certainly took your time. I had half resolved to complete the task myself.
That is like the emperor of the fascist dominion thing. The Garleans. He's like emperor of the Garleans. I'm pretty sure.
And you are?
Is he gonna tell us?
Were one to study the annals of Garlean history, one would find yonder visage on many a page.
Thank you, Orianja.
Though by rights its youth should long since have faded.
Okay, so translation.
Well, we have
You will see this face in history, but it makes no sense that he's so young.
I am Solus Sos Galvus, founding father of the Garlean Empire, and under various guises, the architect of myriad other imperially inclined nations. As for my true identity...
He's an Asian. That was a good reveal.
I am Emmett Selk, Asian.
Emmett Selk. Okay. Wait, do Asians just leave people immortal?
Gaius spoke of you, a native of the Source.
Equal in rank to La Habrea. And you came all this way just to introduce yourself to us?
I'm pretty sure he's higher ranked than La Habrea within the Asians.
Behold the sky, restored to its former glory. Have you ever seen a more affecting spectacle?
Okay. Someone's going to need to check. Either Tatsu or Xerix. You're gonna need to tell me in like the top left, like what the weather barometer says. But I'm gonna take the random guess that it's not supposed to be overcast. Like, look at this man, as if he's in Adelaide, just sort of being like, "Behold the sky, restored to its former glory. Have you ever seen a more affecting spectacle?" That's the word I was drawing a blank on, but yeah, I actually hate that they were focusing on. Zarex, focus. Zarex, focus. I need you to tell me what the weather is on the server at this moment. Because look at this guy. Okay, maybe not his ass, but look up here. It's clear now. Wait. So, like, is it, like, actually weather, like, sunny clear? And, like, this is what clear is? And apparently Sashera loves Emmett.
Oh, it is truly, deeply infuriating. Do you have any idea how much you have delayed the rejoining?
I'm guessing by a small margin. It would be great. 3%.
Following the flood, the first had been listing ever further towards the light, towards stasis. The end was in sight.
I guess he fucked up.
Enter man and his indomitable spirit. He would haul the
indomitable
world back from the brink.
Did anyone see those memes on
the power of
TikTok?
Growth. He duly tipped the scales, if only by a fraction. Yet a fraction was enough to spoil the perfect imbalance needed to bring about a rejoining. Had mankind continued to live in idleness under Vorthri's rule, all the conditions would have been met. But you had to come and ruin it all.
Pull the lever, Grunk.
Thanks to
No!
Light supremacy is in doubt, and our painstakingly laid plans are in tatters!
I don't know why, but
Well, I should begin by thanking you for confirming Urianger's theories on the inner workings of the Calamity. He will be most pleased.
okay. When we get back to Emmett,
As for what happens next,
this dude,
might I suggest
like
you
the
would
way
make your
he's
seat and walk
pointing
away?
and his infuriation, it reminds me of Jim Carrey's The Grinch for like the dramatization and such. But then remember the kid, I think his name is Linus or Minus in The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl, where he was just like, "Mr. Electric, send this juvenile to the principal's office and have him expelled." It has, if those two energies joining in, the dramatization of The Grinch, of Jim Carrey's The Grinch, and fucking Linus from The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl in terms of like just angst. That's why he's so good. Wait, what?
Happy to let me go, are you? Because the murderous glint in your eye suggests otherwise. Indeed, it is enough to make me think better of confronting you alone.
Indeed.
Look, it did cross my mind to simply side with Vorthri and kill you all.
But there's a but there.
But that's no different from what Lahabre did. And we all know how well that ended for him.
I killed him. Me. Warrior of Light, GrantZeebs.
And so,
Boobies!
while it is liable to be troublesome, I have settled upon a different approach.
As you know.
Calm your eyes, Paddy.
I will not raise a hand to hinder your hunt for the Light Wardens. If you desire it, I will even lend you my knowledge and strength.
Why?
Since time immemorial, you and yours have labored to rejoin the 13 shards, at the cost of countless lives. Do you expect us to believe that your objective has suddenly changed?
It's probably one of those cases of he's immortal. What?
Nay, our objective is the same as it ever was.
Like,
Though I dare say,
it's one of those cases of like,
you
oh,
do
the
not
rejoining
know
done
our
now or the
motive.
rejoining in 100 years means
A
nothing
war waged
to, like,
without
you
knowledge
know.
of the enemy is no war. It is mere bloodletting. Just once. Might we not seek to find common ground?
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
For good or ill, I am immortal. Provided I have the inclination, I can always begin anew, scheme and conspire to my heart's content.
That. He's probably
But this
fine
time
with
I
us
thought that I might
succeeding
instead try to
once.
see eye to eye,
Because,
to understand
you
what
know.
drives the hero of the source, to determine
Boobies!
if our goals are truly incompatible.
Boobies!
So come, shed your preconceptions. See beyond the unscrupulous villains you take us for. When all is said and done, we may find ourselves pleasantly surprised. The proud discoverers of a path of cooperation rather than opposition. Think of it.
Is this your card?
Thou hast delivered thy proposal, and we would not dismiss it outright. If I may offer thee counsel, however, to make thy case via an illusion reflecteth poorly upon thy sincerity.
Did you know he was an illusion when you threw the card, or were you kind of hoping...
My apologies. You will forgive me if I'm not entirely at ease in the presence of a famed Ascian slayer. I felt it only prudent to take precautions. Nonetheless, your counsel is duly noted. I take my leave, friends. Rest assured, we shall meet again soon.
But yeah, that's... So my thought on, like, you know, one of the possibilities of why he'd want to cooperate with us is for a sake of... Because he's immortal, as he's mentioned. So he has all the fucking time in the world. He has, you know... What's the, like, the difference for an immortal person of accomplishing their goal in 1 year or 100 years means fuck all in like the span of infinity. Like, it's nothing. So us, like, we very much like the idea of, like, you know, being able to accomplish our goal within the and like having it last 100 years or so. That would be great. But let's not, like, you know, get past the point of, so what do you know I remember? So what do you know I remember about the Ascians at this point? I vaguely remember them. Cooperation? He can't be serious, can he? Well, we've certainly been given much to ponder, but first things first, we should report to the Exarch. You can run along, Grant. We're perfectly capable of handling this little task. In light of your recent exertions, I'd say you earned a rest. Go on, take yourself off to bed. We will see you later, refreshed and ready for more. What do you know what do you know / remember about the Ascians at this point? Okay, so... I'm gonna need to let me get paint out. So... Alright. So... Oh, Jesus. Alrighty, so, and then click the plus button, and it's going to be a, game, no, it's not going to be a game capture. Actually, I think it does need to be a game cap. Alright, window capture of paint. Thank you. Alrighty, now, so, oh my god, what's happening there? That is absolutely disgusting. All right, hang on a second. Move this to here, hide it, reveal it, file, new. Why is it like this? Why does it want to be like this? Oh my god. Alright, hang on a sec. Open up paint again. Again, it's... Delete. Yes. And game capture. Don't worry, I'll get this. Alrighty, so... You know what? Fuck it. Sources, cover the thing in it. Delete that. Yeah. Alright, so you've got like the Asian. So you got like the Asians, like Laha Breha with the fucking like thing with like the creepy symbols. And then it's just like the squiggly thingamadiggies. And they are interested in, because there's like this crystal thing, like the quote-unquote source, and they're like 13 whatsamahoozies, the 13 shards. And so far there have been several of these shards joining back into the source, I think 7 times now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that can be attributed to the Asians, because they're scheming, conniving people. Let's just pretend that's their hands just being like and so now they're not like explicitly beings within the source or any of the shards. What they do is they actually project themselves into like sort of like a spiritual projection into one of these shards or the source, and normally it's either as the there's like a thing there. Normally they're using the aether or a person as like the host. So, and unfortunately, if you the way death is handled is that any sort of any person that gets the whole if they're dead, they normally join into the aether and such like that. But whereas if you try and kill an Asian, normally they just join back into some weird fucking state of not really sort of part of the aether or what have you, or maybe they do. I don't know if they're back in the aether or not, but then they're able to go back in and and then try it all over again. And so there's this cycle that goes off again and again and again, which is why the Scions had to come up with this rather interesting method of they had to use some sort of aether. It couldn't be an aether with an element. It had to be an unelemental aether. So what would happen is that they would use this unidentified aether to trap the to trap the Asian into the thingamadiggy. Oh wait, no, that wasn't the only way you can kill it. But that was so because Laha Breha technically got killed because he got blasted because of several different, because he got blasted by basically the Ultima weapon, an Elegian artifact, and with the combined might of 6 elements or some shit like that, because of the primals that we did, and plus with the help of Heidelin, the goddess of the aether or some shit, we were able to kill Laha Breha, and then we killed another Ascian, and rather than going through that movement again of like, you know, the Elysian, the Elysian super weapon and the 6 different sources of aether and what have you, what we did is they technically trapped him within an unaspected aether, and then using a concentrated amount of aether, like, killed him or something like that. So, yeah. And so now so that's about as much as I know about the Ascians.
Hendrix with the 21-month tier 1 sub.
Thank you so much for the tier 1
Hello.
sub. Hi, Hendrix. So Ascians. I can't write with my right hand, I'm sorry to say. Save as PNG file. Where's my Twitch resources? There we go. Stream drawings. God, I haven't drawn anything since like April last year. 2023 12, and this is me explaining Ascians. Explaining Ascians. I might be wrong. Alright, now I'm gonna join into the zebra streaming, and I'm gonna close that, and we're gonna go back to the Whatsamahoozies. And Tatsu is in the chat. Hello, Tatsu.
Hello. How are you doing?
I am doing okay.
Go suck a lemon.
I just had to explain to Sashera what I remembered about the Ascians.
Yes. Don't worry, you probably remember more than I do.
Yeah. Do you remember the bit where Solus shot Emmett in the head? Yes, I remember. Well, not Solus, but basically the existing emperor of the Garlean Empire.
That's it. I'm gonna spit in your mouth.
Shot Emmett Whatsamahoozies. And it was a case of, like, you know, Emmett was just sort of like, oh, well, that was a waste of time, because, you know, basically they're not of the world. They're not of our world, either of the first or the source. They're technically outside of that. And they just visit us, invader of body snatchers kind of thing. Welcome back, sir. We have been expecting you. You will find refreshments laid out in your quarters. We hope that you are to our liking. Will you be retiring now? Very good. I bid you a pleasant evening, and I get myself a sandwich basket. A picnic worthy of scrumptious snacks cannot be retrieved once used. Can be used up to 10 times. Nice. I'll keep my eggs. And then he walked back in like, wow, rude. So given that they're body snatchers, do you remember when Emmett's getting his form FRM? Like, from the... like aether crystals or some shit, which is like a weird thing, because like Garleans can't use magic as far as I know. You can explain it to me once I'm like done with my like look at that sandwich. Look at them sandwiches.
We got sandwiches.
Oh, hang on. We got sandwiches. Look at the detail of these sandwiches. They're fucking like, you can see the egg, you can see the ham, cheese, and lettuce, or that could be a BLT. And then there's like, it's delicious. I fucking love it.
I'll go for the egg sandwich.
I'll go for the BLT. I hope the past few days have not been overly taxing. Pray take your rest and recover.
From the Exarch, is it? With that mirror of his, he can watch your every move, you know. You'll probably think you're talking to yourself.
Probably could be. I don't know, like... The Exarch hasn't explained whether or not he can't see you.
Judging by his people's faith in him, he seems to be a decent sort. But so much about him remains shrouded in mystery. Like, what was he doing back in my day? There was no such person when I was around. A lot's happened since the flood, though. Since I was set adrift. I know little more than you do of this city's history in the Exarch's past. Not that it matters. It's Emmett Selk we should be concerned about.
Why do they have such weird names? Like, Ardbert
When
works
our world
well.
was about to be consumed by light, the Ascian in white appeared before us. He said that the only way for us to live on was to bring about the rejoining. Desperate as we were, we heeded his words, not realizing that the flood was of the Ascian's own making. They cannot be trusted. None of them. But Emmett Selk had one thing right. One should not fight blindly. That's what we did. And it cost us everything we held dear.
Hang on, I'll stream the thingamajiggy so then that way you have an opportunity of seeing what I'm seeing. Tatsu is blocking the subtitles. Well, that's why the character is talking. Normally I'll say the things that are being said, but he was talking, so don't be mean. What will I say? Not everything. Tell me about Seto. Tell me about Seto.
What? What about Seto? What is there to say? All right. He's done some growing. When we were traveling together, he was nowhere near as big. And he obviously couldn't speak. I had no idea how much that medallion meant to him.
Look at him, he's smiling.
What about you, anyway? You must have a friend like Seto. Chocobo, perhaps? Come on, you tell me something for a change.
I have one Chocobo, and their name is Cookie, because someone in chat
Go
was
suck
like,
a lemon.
Cookie. That's the name of a Chocobo. Name the next thing you have to name, Cookie. Cookie for furry cures. Oh, we ate all the sandwiches.
Oh, the sandwiches.
Icy is cute, Uwu.
But yeah, I'm sorry, Sash, but I do not recall the cloning technology thingy-majiggy. That one I feel like is... I don't remember that from Stormblood. I remember the whole taking the echo away and putting it into other people. I remember that, but I do not remember the whole... I don't remember cloning. Blue Spirit headgear. Nice. Good day to you, sir. I do hope you are well rested. The Exarch and your companions are presently gathered in the Ocular. He asks that you convene with them at your earliest convenience. Excuse me, I had the hiccups. How's your day been going, Tatsu?
It's been pretty good. Had some D&D earlier today. It was fun and eventful.
Oh, that's cool.
How about you?
I did D&D last night with Co, the Baldur's Gate thing. But today I went to see my dad because he turned 62 yesterday. So we went to see him on the weekend. We gifted him a Ryobi like wireless vacuum and leaf blower. So which was really cool. The only downside is even though that was on his wish list, he doesn't have any of the Ryobi batteries, and when we purchased the thing, it says on the side of like, you know, this does not come with a battery or a charger, and we're just sort of like, me and my sister were like, does he have one? Like, he would know that this thing wouldn't have one when he like made his wish list, right? And then we asked his wife, and like she didn't know 100%. We were like, fuck it, we'll we'll just, you know, take it by chance that maybe, yes, he does have a battery and charger, but he doesn't.
It's kind of silly they sell a big item that requires a battery and don't give you a battery and charger.
I think, like, the only reason why is just because of the Ryobi system being a whole one battery for all the different technologies, and they don't want you, like, you know, doubling up on so many batteries, because they are rather bulky, expensive batteries on their own, and it's probably why they're able to sell some of their gear cheaper than normal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's just like a little bit funny that we're just like, we don't know, maybe, and then Dad's just sort of like, no, I don't have these batteries, but Mario does. So it's a case of like, oh, they're just gonna nick it from their friend. Do you have?
Why is that how old dads are? They're like, I don't have this, but my friend does, so I'm just gonna steal it off them.
Yeah, it's just equivalent exchange here. I don't piss them off, and I get their batteries. Yeah, exactly. Friendship equals beer some days, and then friendship equals I take your batteries.
Your batteries now belong to me.
Mine. Alrighty, so are we missing any other of the? Oh, no, actually,
there you
we're not missing any other of the Scions.
Guest.
Unless, is Yestola gonna be joining us? Can we please move Tatsu? No, we're fine. Tatsu's fine. You don't need to worry about, like...
I'm sorry that my afro is too big.
You're like... Hang on. Donk.
I'm 90% afro.
Please. Did I not explicitly tell you that we would be meeting again? Lest you forget, I made you a promise.
Oh, okay, so I can't move the thing. Okay, I'm just gonna have to move you.
Your Exarch friend in particular has piqued my curiosity.
Alright.
Summoning you all like that.
So...
Most impressive.
Alrighty, so I'm gonna reduce the width from 1920 to, like, 700. So...
Actually, that makes it better.
Actually, that's a bit too... 1,000... No, let's go... 1250. $1,150. There we go.
I could always just play bongos with your shoulder.
Nah, it's fine, it's fine. So...
You honestly expect us to believe you've come only to observe? Or that you might deign to lift a finger to aid our cause if called upon? Even if there were a sliver of truth in your words, I would never accept your help. Not in my darkest hour. Not after all the suffering your kind has wrought.
So petty. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. Wage your war against the Sin Eaters, put each and every Light Warden to the sword, prove yourselves heroes, brave and true, and I will be glad to embrace you as allies. Allies worthy of bearing the burden of truth.
Why are your eyes so close?
Surely such a partnership would be preferable to yet another round of fisticuffs.
Go suck a lemon.
And thus did the olive branch wither and die. Pity. Well, let no man say I did not try, futile as it was.
You barely tried, okay?
Though I suspect you will seek me out when you grow tired of making the same mistakes. Difficult decisions lie ahead of you. Decisions best made with the benefit of knowledge to which only the eternal are privy. For now, I shall resume my shadowy vigil, Whatever you choose to do, make sure it's worth watching, would you?
What was that all about?
What if we held hands as a treat?
A vain attempt to make us doubt our chosen course, most like. As if we'd believe a word that passed his lips.
Do you think Thancred is still pissed that he got possessed by La Habrea?
Unless you think there is some truth in what he said.
I feel like he holds a grudge, yeah.
Yeah. A colonel, perhaps.
If he simply meant to lead us astray, he could have done so without revealing himself. At least, not in the manner he did. It goes without saying that an alliance with the Ascians is out of the question. But since we have no way of knowing where they might be hiding, it seems only logical to press on with our mission, even if our enemy seems content for it to succeed.
Then let us discuss the Sin Eaters. I would begin by thanking
the Exarch just being like, moving on. Let's talk about something productive.
The Light Wardens of Lakeland and Ilmeg, you have accomplished more in your short time here than all of our forces managed in the last century.
That may be, but the Wardens of Calusia, Amareng, and Raktika remain.
Indeed, and their precise whereabouts are as yet unknown. Which is why I propose we divide our forces and conduct a systematic survey of each region. Once we have found our quarry, we may then determine how best to proceed.
I'll take Amareng in that case. I know the lie of the land well enough.
If there are no objections, I will make for Calusia. I have connections there both in and around Yulmore that may prove useful.
Then I would ask that you journey to Raktika. There you will find Y'shtola. With her assistance, I doubt the Warden will evade your grasp for long.
Is Y'shtola the conjurer you and Urianger used to talk about?
That's right. Though we haven't spoken much since she left for the forest.
I fear I may be to blame for that. I had every intention of relaying the news of your arrival, but she is disinclined to speak with me.
She's a bit pissed, is what I'm hearing.
You have visited her, have you not? Might I trouble you to...
'Twould be no trouble.
My thanks. While you are all out in the field, I shall be here attending to business. I had somewhat fancifully contemplated joining the search myself, but other matters demand my attention.
What's that?
It's an envelope.
A missive from Lord Vorthry. He invites me to join him in Yulmore to discuss the recent conflict at Lida Luran.
I love how Sashera explaining like the same thing I understand. She puts in all caps,
I should be
kinda.
Not. Nevertheless,
Kinda.
I must seize this opportunity to speak with him.
Kinda dragged her ass over. Translation: he just straight up kidnapped her.
So far from the tower, it is a risk I am willing to take.
The only difference between when Y'shtola tried, you know, magicking their way out of a sewer and him pulling them out into an entirely different plane of existence, he just made them, like, have a fucking comatose moment during the source. I think they were in the source.
Then let us make ready.
Yes, technically speaking, I think, like, all of us, like, physically wise, are in the source, but then we've projected ourselves into the first shard. Ding! Alrighty then, Exarch. Before you leave, I would make a request of you. There is a church, or rather, the ruins of a church, at Fort Job. Might I ask that you go there before seeking out Y'shtola? It was a place where people once gathered to worship the light. Alas, it has long since fallen into disuse. Yet, within that hall there remains a tablet whose writings, I believe, may prove of use to Y'shtola. At the very least, such a relic would make a suitable gift for your reunion. A most considerable proposal. Very well. ere we depart to Raktika, we shall journey on to Fort Job that we might secure this relic. Nice. Ding. Alrighty then, moving on. Mind if I jump in the VC? Nah, go ahead, Code. How far into the story are yous? Because you're not up to where I am, I don't think. Where's the... He's a moderator, right?
Hello.
Hello.
Patch content of Stormblood.
Ah, okay, so you're not too far away.
Yeah, I'm not too far away.
No, you've got like...
I was gonna play shits and giggles and enter in going, I got a lovely bunch of coconuts.
Diddly-dig. Alright,
Or go with the old, go with the Team 4 stuff. I've got a lovely bunch of Dragon Balls, diddly diddly. There they are, all sit there in a bunch. 1 star, 2 star, as big as my head. Give 'em a toss, the planet across the south, Vegeta wins.
Hey! Also, hi there, Masonic. So yeah, how did you find Stormblood? I felt like it was a weird rush from the second half.
I thought, from the trailer, I originally thought it was primarily going to take place in the Doma residency. But it's only a really small part that's done in Doma. And it's why?
It's because they did this thing of, we had basically 2 rebellions on 2 different fronts with different levels of, occupancy between the 2. Because, Doma had been under subjugation for, 20 years, so there was a case of there are people alive in Doma who do not remember a time before the Garlean Empire and shit. And you could have had some really interesting conflict with that, especially since you had Tiramisu, or whatever her name is. No,
Tiramisu.
That's a food, yeah.
You mean Tatsuyu?
Tatsuyu. Yes, Tatsuyu. So yeah, because Tatsuyu was a bitch, let's be real. And I feel like half the reason for it is because you don't
even get explored much of her story. You get a few snippets of flashback where she's basically sold off and, told that, she was put in with an abusive husband and their family didn't like her because she was part of the actual main family. It's okay, but what else?
But yeah, that's my only criticism, is that I feel like Stormblood was trying to take on rebellions on 2 different fronts of various levels of occupancy, which is a very difficult narrative to go through. Because rebellion on an active existing country there can be nuances in that one for sure, but having to deal with a rebellion within an established regime is a very different thing. It's very easy to look at Nazis in Paris and just sort of be yeah, kick all the Nazis out. Very easy. But when it comes to some people do not separate Nazis from Germany, annoyingly enough. They are different, and yeah. I feel like Doma would have been an interesting one like that, where it's you have Garleans within Doma and shit like that, but then you have to come into the conflict of what is Doma? Because Doma 20 years ago is not the same as Doma now, much like how... in Zendikar. Because in Zendikar you have what's Uzi's? Nahili. She knew of a Zendikar well before the corruption of the Eldrazi and, the superstructures and all this other kind of crazy pile-on nonsense. But then when you look at what's the name of the elf? But when you look at Nissa, her experiences of, because this is thousands of years difference nearly, her understanding of Zendikar, because the Eldrazi are imprisoned in there and the Royal and all this other nonsense, her version of Zendikar is not the superstructures and shit. And is not of the super crazy advanced civilization, but instead this scrappy explorer and all this kind of such. Yeah. It's the difference between modern Egypt and Egypt during the BC. They're 2 completely different beasts.
In other words, people, Grant is a nerd!
You the nerd! Wait, wrong person. You the nerd!
Too late, you already pointed at Tatsu.
All right. Also, shut up, unnamed. Shut up, you nerd. You Warhammer nerd. You absolute fucking fiend in the Warhammer. I bet you could have like done a full 2-hour video on like any one of your factions. You would, wouldn't you? You fucking nerd. You nerd.
Such an abusive zebra.
Have you actually? Hang on a sec. I'll do a clip shout out of unnamed, and I bet you it's gonna be of the one about like when they're trying to enjoy Warhammer and then someone interrupts them.
No treat. Treat? No treat.
Treat? No treat.
Oh, it's not that one.
Don't tease me with treats.
So mean. Like, look at how mean he is.
No! You fuck!
It's okay, unnamed. We love you.
Oh my gosh, this is when they were going through crowd control.
Fuck!
It's okay, unnamed. It's okay. The mean zebra can't hurt you in real life.
That is true. They're over in Texas, and I'm here. Oh, I think I found the clip now. Hang on a second. All right, so copy that. Exclamation point play. Crowd control is pain. Yeah, but it's funny. Crowd control is funny. Yes, what's...
I think your model's a little broken.
Yeah, no, someone de-himboed me. Zarex de-himboed me.
Oh, I was confused. I was like, what happened to all of the arm? The arm is gone.
No, someone just sucked out all the fat. It was like...
Also, why is the play button not working? Hang on a second. So, there's that, and then if I go exclamation point play...
Okay.
Also, hi Cap, let me in. Cap is just demanding to be let in.
There's a cutie Cap joining us. Let's go.
They're just like, let me in!
Let me in!
Let me in. Let me in.
Let me in.
Don't let her in. She's a trap.
That might be a bit of a cancelable action.
That is a cancelable offense code. They are now banished to the Shadow Realm.
We'll have to let's see what Twitter thinks about that.
Okay, let's. All right,
Anyway,
you're back. Welcome back.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have terrible news.
Did you spend money on V-Bucks instead of like on useful things like an art commission?
I did not. However, I don't know how to say this. My brother is a Spider-Man 2 dick rider.
Oh, suck it! Spider-Man 2 didn't win any awards.
It didn't win jack shit. My brother is so mad. Baldur's Gate 3 is genuinely that good. He does not believe me for a second.
Look, this year, like everyone would, like I know people get, like they shit on the AAA industry and all that kind of shit, but let's be real. This year, in terms of like video games being released, and this could also be attributed to last year as well, it was fucking stacked in the AAA industry, okay? Like, in this year alone, not only did we have Tears of the Kingdom, which is, everyone has their arguments of whether or not it's just a DLC of, like, Breath of the Wild or an entirely new game. It was still a fucking banger. We got Alan Wake 2, so not only did you get, like, oh, here's some Nintendo fun that is always mechanically sound, but you also had Remedy coming out and being like, oh, this is a medium where you can have critical thinking and shit. Here's Alan Wake 2. You're not gonna shut up about this whenever you do essays. And then we had Spider-Man 2, which is like, you know, it's Sony. It's a Sony first-party title. It's pretty good. The year that God of War won it, like, I think some people still debate whether they should have, and Spider-Man 2 was gonna be in that scenario. And then you had Baldur's Gate 3, where
the one that made AAA fear.
Here's the thing, is that everyone thinking of like, oh, it's AAA, like AAA theory and what have you. It's less about that and more about the fact of it was a D&D title. It was turn-based and it was, you know, on a system that a lot of people were not going to be interested in getting into. And they've done so many fucking games. They didn't come out of nowhere. They came out after doing half a dozen Divinity games. Like, Code, you're going through Divinity 1 and 2, right?
No, yeah, I've already been through Divinity 1. I'm going through Divinity 2.
Would you see those as like, oh, baby's first video game?
I mean, Lorien has actually done a lot more world building than just the two Divinity Original Sins. There were Divinity games before these Divinity games that went into helping build the world that they already created and mastered later on in Original Sin 1 and 2. So,
yep.
These weren't like, I wouldn't say these were baby's first steps. These were road to godhood for storytelling.
What I mean by baby's first video game is, would you recommend if someone hasn't played video games before and you needed to like get like, you know, this is like, would you put them in the same category as playing FIFA or Fortnite with a friend going, oh, hey, Divinity Original Sin, you're gonna love it?
Oh yeah, no, I would. I totally would.
Oh, you absolute degenerate. I would not have done that. I put that in the same. I put Divinity in the same category as Dark Souls, which is a case of it is not the first video game you present to someone, but it is the first game for connoisseurness. When you're like looking to explore more than just the first-person shooter title or Mario.
Okay, so that's
Hello.
how I get that item.
Hello.
Big chicken mode.
We have Chimkim.
Alrighty then. We're gonna have our conga line fat chocobos again, I imagine, in this stream.
Abashubi, this is you.
You all are over at the Shadowbringers, and I'm still stuck here in Stormblood.
You're gonna get hit with spoilers, most likely, Code.
You're all so far ahead. It's not fair.
I mean, I'm technically at the end of Endwalker.
Who's keeping up?
I'm technically also at the end of Endwalker.
Everyone's just watching me and Code go through our paces, and they're just sort of like, hurry the fuck up. Dawn Trail comes out in 2024. What are you doing? Why are you playing Yakuza on a Wednesday? Haven't you heard of the critically acclaimed MMORPG?
Don't worry, Sash. It took Sash 3 months to convince me to actually finish Endwalker.
Also, hey Grant.
Hey, what's up?
How do I look?
How do I?
Kissable. You think my Hrothgar's kissable?
I can only wait. Hang on.
mean,
No, I
I'd
can't.
kiss your Hrothgar.
Oh, there you are. I'm trying to talk to Urianger.
Uber danger.
Urianger.
Look at my smoochable lips.
Do you? Thank you. Here amidst these ruins we will find... Here amidst these ruins we will find the Church of the First Light, and within that hallowed hall the tablet that we seek. Time is of the essence, my friend. Let us be quick.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there we go. Dunk. Dink. Urianger appears lost in thought. At the height of Lakeland's prosperity, these sites served not as man's final bastion, but as a testament to his ingenuity and architectural prowess. The Church of the First Light was responsible for many such marvels, building majestic chapels in every corner of the realm. Alas, the flood with its inexorable tides would drown nigh everyone, and did all but put an end to the religion as a whole. For the creatures which then did rise from that Fugent deluge were seen as agents of divine punishment, sent to devour sin and sinner both, whence came the name of Sin Eater. The people
also,
were
Urianger, speak English. Don't speak yeah.
Yeah. The people were lost, seemingly forsaken by their god. Yet, where there is light, there hath ever been shade, and 'twas in the dark they sought solace. The most devout of these worshippers of shadow did then migrate to the Raktika Greatwood, but that is a tale for another time.
Raktika Greatwood? Oh, it's that time.
Yeah. For now, let us find what remaineth of the chapel here. Alright. Invite to party. I love how Tatsu has the... Hang on a second. I need a... Donk. Alrighty. Let me hit you with the Power Rangers.
Damn it, this account
Hey.
doesn't have Power Rangers.
Har.
That's Power Rangers. I don't have the big jump. This is the only one I have. Hey, yo, Power Ranger.
Power Ranger.
Hey, yo, Power Ranger.
Power Ranger. All right, hang on a second. I am. Where is my pose? It's Power Ranger B.
Yami Sentai. Dark Ranger. Da-dun, da-dun, da-dun.
There we go. It's basically just the Ginyu Force. The subtitles are blocked again.
Zeebs.
That's why I am reading them, Furry Cures. And plus, I get to hang out with my buddies, my friends, and Cap.
The Tomodachi.
It's
fucking thrown to the sideline.
Because I had to like zoom in and then push even further to the left.
My buddies, my friends, and there's this thing right here.
And Cap. All right.
Listen, Cap. Grant might not want to be your friend, but I'll be your friend.
Alrighty, hang on a second. How do I nay in? Why do you want to try and nay in Final Fantasy 14? This isn't Fortnite.
Is it because I'm dabbing? I'm technically dabbing.
You should be ashamed of that.
Alrighty, hang on.
No, that is exactly why I bought this pose.
Alright. Wait, am I
be
in
ashamed.
the best gear I can wear?
Never.
Oh, I can wear a better ring. Noted. But that's not important.
I'll be the issue, mate.
I think at some point I need to buy myself a Fantasia.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a Fantasia once they release Febrovka.
Wait, do I have to go underneath? What?
No, I just want to. I just feel like I need to adjust. You know, there's some parts of this I wouldn't mind adjusting that I can only do with Fantasia. Like, why are there no good hairstyles for Rothgar?
Because they do
I
not
can't fly
appreciate
here.
furries.
Whereas racist against furries.
Yeah.
I forgot I can't fly here.
Where, like, it says to, like, go, like, beneath, like, basically this point here, but I do not see, like a quote-unquote underground. Like, where? I am so, like, where's down from here? They said they took...
Zarex know where the underground is.
Like... Oh, hang on. Oh, there it is. That works. Zarex has got 2 spare. They're gonna check out Fem, Rothgar, and then switch back. There we are. Nice. Alrighty.
Here we are in the evil temple of evil.
Evil!
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 Oh, I'm still in my Power Rangers uniform.
We all know what evil stands for.
Aye, this is indeed the church we seek. It's surprisingly intact. What little is left of the churches I've seen until now has always bore the scars of decade of disuse. Its subterranean construction hath done much to protect the halls from the ravages of time, yet the reason for its remarkable preservation may be deduced from its decoration. As faith in the light did wane, so rose reverence for the dark, and its followers did want for places of worship. To be plain, the standards which do adorn these walls belong not to those who build them, but to worshippers of the dark, the Knights Blessed, who subsequently migrated to Raktika, yes? Indeed, 'twas beneath the shaded boughs of the Raktika Greatwood that they finally found sanctuary. Oft and many times did Ulmor make spiracious overtures of friendship upon them, but they are no fools. The Exarch knoweth full well that Y'shtola, in her seclusion, doth labor to learn all she may of the blessed and their past. 'Tis why he sent us here, I now see. The tablet which he spoke no doubt provideth a glimpse into the history that she so yearneth to comprehend. Well then, we'd better hurry up and find it. I need one of you to do like a voice for a new character. Who's feeling up for reading subtitles when the time
I
comes?
want to read.
Sorry?
I'd like to read.
Alrighty then, we'll need a... Oh wait, hang on, destination. Still here. Search your surroundings for a tablet. You may move the camera as well as zoom in and out, target an area and inspect it with... Oh, this is gonna be annoying. Start. Enhance. Can anyone tell me what this infernal tablet even looks like? Hi there, Blue. Oh,
it's probably an Apple tablet. Who knows?
Who knows? I see Blue has a new animated emote for their sussies. And now they have a point emote. Why are you pointing? Stop pointing at me, Blue. Degenerate. Were the tablet a fragment of holy scripture? 'Twould mostly assuredly rest here on this altar. Yet this would, I presume, also have been where the blessed placed the font of seeing used in the practice of their faith. Whither then would they have set the tablet? Alrighty. Oh, hello. I like just... You have located the time-worn tablet. Streamer sus? No.
Wow.
Blue is sus. That
was so hard.
Look at this sus streamer.
Oh boy. Ladies and gentlemen.
You know what? Screw this. I'm gonna go for the freaking war jump
yelling.
star.
Look at this sus streamer making Mario T-pose in the air. Look at him.
Yeah, you're wondering how I knew about that. Yeah, that's like there's technically an easier, well, a harder speedrun trick than this. But
Within the altar thou sayest? Thou sayest?
That was satist?
Sayest. Sayest.
No, satist.
Sayest. Oh, what's there? I think I need the Lanners, the ones from Shadowbringers, and Endwalker. I still need to go for the mounts for Heaven's Ward and Stormblood. I've not yet done those in a while.
I need to do them all. I've only got the horse from Titans.
Yep. Not escapest thine eye, 'twould seem. This is indeed the tablet we seek. Curious. These engravings predate the Knights Blessed. If I am not mistaken, they are writhed in the script of an ancient empire of Ronka, whose capital once stood in the midst of what is now Raktikia.
Raktikia, these nuts.
"'Twill be no small matter to decipher them. A fine gift for our seeker of truth. 'Tis plain the Exarch understandeth Y'shtola only too well. But come, let us quit this place and make ready for our journey to the woods."
Come?
Come.
Come?
Come. Come.
Come.
Come.
Come.
Come.
Come.
Come.
Come. Sink.
Why are you bonking me, Xerix? Bonk any of them. These fucking cyberpunk nimmies just being like, come. Alrighty.
In Night
Grant's
City.
just jealous he can't come.
In Night City, what makes you a criminal?
Getting cock. Hang on a second. Open soundboard.
Why do you come?
Why do you come?
Why do you come?
Hang on a second. Where's my dick? Where's the... I'm probably gonna regret this, but I still think it's worth uploading. Oh wait, no, I already do have the Cyberpunk. I just haven't put it on as a, as the button on here, because right now it's kept with...
Chicken.
Chicken. Boom. We'd like to take a moment to... all our food keeps blowing up.
Blowing up.
All right, hang on a second. Chicken. Here we go. Cyberpunked.
Dick.
Orange is ready to leave, but not before first offering a piece of advice. Ere we depart, there is a custom of the Knights Blessed which I feel compelled to elucidate. As one might...
Use elucidate in your fucking daily vocabulary?
No, I don't. Why the fuck would I ever use the phrase elucidate? What kind of fucking Shakespearean area nonsense is that? We're not in Pride and Prejudice. We're in fucking, like, a modern telling of Romeo and Juliet featuring Leonardo DiCaprio and, what's-a-mahoozies from Lord of the Rings.
I mean, you say that, but they call his gun a sword, and that's still just does not sit right with me.
But there's guns and there's cars. It's in the modern day.
I just can't get past them calling guns swords.
Technically, they're only called guns because Queen Gunhilda. Not even because they're like actual just guns.
Are you sure you're not confusing like gun breakers with the guns of today? Blue says get counterspelled. You make no sense.
You get counterspelled.
You get
Blue.
counterspelled. God damn it. As one might expect, they deem light to be abhorrent and everything it touches befouled. Thus do they make the utmost pains to protect all they can from its taint, including their very names.
Taint.
Play
the song. There we go.
I'm just gonna have to keep that button on my stream for a little bit longer, aren't I?
It just looks done.
You do know you guys can also use the soundboard, right? It should be available. We've got Bonk, we've got Taco Bell, we got the Timpani Boing, and then the terrible.
Do you really want to give them that much power?
So long as they don't
Especially
so long as they don't abuse it while we're in the middle of stream.
Abuse it.
See, you gave it too much power.
Well, it's not in my soundboard. I just need to make it so that they can't use external sounds. To speak plain, it is the belief of the blessed that one's own name must ne'er be uttered in the light of the everlasting day. Yet this commandment precludeth not the use of another's. Thus do parents protect their children, and in rare cases, masters their disciples. So, it is that Y'shtola hath taken the name of Master Matoya. Lest we offend them, I bid you speak not her true name in the Blessed's presence. With that in mind, let us speak with the god who keepeth vigil at the great wood's border. Save it. That is some classic Final Fantasy intro, the O/. Or the 07. Hi there, Savelath. Hopefully I said that correctly. Alrighty, let me get into my normal gun breaker. There we go.
You did not. You have to go to jail now.
There we go. I'm good. Dun, 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 dun. Oh wait, wrong way. Which way am I go? Okay, I'm going this way.
T-Bookster with the 4-month tier 1 sub. Yay.
Yay! Thank you for the 4-month bookie. You don't have to deal with advertisements that pop up once an hour on my stream, and you get to use all these fun emotes. If I can get to them.
No.
These fun emotes.
Wait, before I cut, I should grab that.
Thank you, bookie. Look at us. Oh, this will be funny. Oh, Sash! Sash, are you still here? I demand the presence of Sash.
Sashera's fucking dead.
Damn it. Well met, traveler. What business brings you here?
Ooh, sushi.
Well, of course. Right this way. Yet an absolute sushi fest? Nice. Woo!
No matter how far he goes, man cannot resist looking back on the path he has walked. The untold stories and secrets of the past can be more alluring than the promise of tomorrow. And so he braves the forests of Raktika in search of mystery and wonder. Of Ronka, to which all
Wait, is this Lahi?
truths are inevitably drawn.
Oh yeah, it is!
We have arrived.
Sorry, I'm gonna be real with you. My first experience to this album of Lahi was when the fucking composer came on stage and they had 2 automatons with them.
Yeah, that sounds like Soken.
Yep, Soken's just like, Lahi! Lahi!
Do you know Rahi?
Lahi?
Vast though
Do you
these
know the
woods
Muffin
may
Man?
be, they are, by and large, uninhabitable.
Man.
Not so the swamps of Sidia, however, whose
Oh,
sparse
she's
foliage
married
permitted
to
man
the
a
Muffin
foothold.
Man.
The Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man.
Wait, is he wearing football spikes in his shoes?
Oh, no, that's not.
What do they call that? When
No lands
footballers
must
have the
remain
spikes on
beyond
their
our
shoes.
grasp. Go forth.
Yay.
Conquer.
They're usually just extra grips so they don't slip in the grass.
Yeah, but like
cleats.
Cleats, there we go. He's wearing fucking cleats.
Sudden pang of nostalgia for those halcyon days.
Ayo.
Exploring virgin territories, subjugating
Virgin.
primitive peoples, all for the glory of Garlemald.
I don't like his use of the word virgin.
If you've brought your ivory standard, I'll be happy to tell you where to stick it.
For the glory of mine butthole. I mean, butthole. I mean,
Can
butthole.
we not simply take a moment to enjoy the view together? Or would you rather I
fun
spied
highlight.
on you from
Yeah.
the shadows?
I feel like a lot of people like he's one of those personalities where like if you met in real life you would be abhorrent to him, but it's one of those like it's like fiction where people love like, you know, what's a Mahuzi like the crazy evils where it's like, oh, the conquerors and shit, but then it's just like, oh, but he's so sexy, like handsome
Like
Jax.
Astarian's worse.
I want
Oh
the
my
fat
God, could you-
cat wood, but it's so expensive.
It really is. It's way too expensive for what it is. But I also want it.
Yeah, because there's an outfit design I was looking at wanting to do with it.
You wanted to go to an actual sushi place, but holy shit, the Uber ride costs $70. Where the fuck are you going that costs $70 to get there, Bookie? Are you going out, like, into the middle of the fucking ocean or something for this sushi place?
Yeah, my god.
$70
Actually,
for...
I say that, but it's super expensive for taxis over here.
Like, the only time I've spent more than $70 on an Uber is because of getting from, like, the airport and just going straight home. I don't want to fuck around with, like, an hour and a half public transport.
Yeah, public transport is usually cheap. It's when you want to go somewhere specific that it gets expensive.
Yeah.
If you really want to stay,
So
then help
public
us
transport for like the major distances, and then you might use Uber as like a, oh, let me just, you know, cut down on the walking within the suburbs.
No, I think not. I am an observer. Nothing more.
Nope. this fucking like nope.
I got good news.
Even shielded by the shadows of these boughs, I feel the light's presence
You're only
most
a feet
keenly.
away from meeting the best husband.
The best husband.
The best husband.
Why do I care about the best husband?
You'll like the best husband.
Because they're the best husband?
Because he's the best husband.
Are you sure about this?
I'm sure about that he's the best husband.
All right, who was the best wife in A Realm Reborn?
The best wife in A Realm Reborn is actually how the fuck did I forget her name? Tataru. It's Tataru.
No.
Tataru Beskil.
No. Wrong. It's the Admiral.
Merlwyb comes close, but
no, there is no comes close with the Admiral. This woman, the epitome of Proto-America, Master of Command, is top lady.
I disagree. I simply disagree with you.
No.
I'm just gonna say that Emmett Silk is best husband specifically from the next DLC. Specifically from the next DLC.
Oh, then you're correct there.
Thank you, Savith, for saying my opinion was based. Or were you talking about Caps being based?
To accompany you is taxing enough. To fight is out of the question.
I will suffer your company if I must, but not your commentary.
Hachafant!
Listen, you can't mention that man's name.
You can't. No, you can't. Okay, he was our best friend. He was what I was actually like. I actually was invested in. Of like, oh yeah, we're going to have him with us till like till the end. I swear. And then it's just like it's fucking killed. And I was just like, that's bullshit. When did Final Fantasy start doing that shit?
When did Final Fantasy turn into fucking Game of Thrones?
My boy used to make me hot chocky when I felt sad, and then he got murdered.
Like Hachafant isn't like best husbando or waifu, but he was best friend. Okay, he was that golden retriever best boy.
And I'm happy that I have his shield because I can use it whenever.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
No, very good shield though. Considering.
Oh,
yeah, but glamour is a thing.
Hi, Sashera. Oh, they're in the waiting room. Bam.
Sash.
Hello.
You gonna join the Fat Chocobo line?
Sure, I'll come join the Fat Chocobo line.
Sashera, I need your opinion, and I need you to be with me on this one.
Okay.
Tataru or the Admiral?
Sasha's gonna agree with me with added silk.
Hang on, guys. Let us speak.
In terms of attractiveness or terrifiedness? Like, what are we going for? Likeness?
Wifeness.
Whiteness.
Wife.
Oh!
Sash will
Emmett
agree
Silk.
with. Yeah, that's what I said. Sash is gonna agree with Emmett Silk. Especially from the next DLC.
I love him, man. I love him so much.
I had the same.
I can't even explain why I love him. I just love him.
Hear me out, Grant. I had the same perspective.
Manipulate male life. That's what he is.
I had the same perspective as you did, Grant, in this DLC with Emmett Silk. And then I got to the next DLC. I was like, I want to husband this man.
Just give it time.
All right. Well, apparently, like in the next region, while we're listening to Lahi, we're going to be seeing like the best husbando or some bullshit.
No, in the next expansion.
Oh, the next expansion?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get to the next expansion today. What are you, nuts?
Maybe you will if you just, don't be a pussy about it.
Listen, the day doesn't end if you don't go to sleep. I'm just saying.
Brilliant idea. Let's just fucking roll through my main quest line and only once I get it done do I sleep. Alrighty
That's
then.
supposed to be good and bad.
Anyways, I'm actually gonna bounce and like maybe do some drawing.
Oh my god, you're gonna bounce after doing your fucking waifu comment of Tatsu or what have you?
Tataru, but yes, I will.
Tataru.
But I will leave you with a gift. I can't leave you with a gift. It's on cooldown.
Suck it.
It is unfortunate. So I'm stealing your shirt anyway. Someone else do.
No, don't steal. God damn it.
Bye.
Bye.
I want Chucky Bill. I like the big Chucky Bill.
It's 7:30 p.m. I can't go for a chalky milk or any like kind of. I got milk. Wait, when does it expire? Hang on a sec. I need to check when the milk expires.
I can have turkey milk because I could over.
Entertain my chat.
Let me entertain
Sash,
you.
make fox noises.
And so
That's all I
once
got.
again, we see ourselves in a situation where Grant wants to get through 10 quests in a session each week, and yet it's distracted by everything else.
Okay,
happening.
so quick update. There is no milk.
Well,
What happened to the milk?
I don't know. I think I drank it. I think I used it all for cereal. I just forgot the day when I
lied to us about milk.
I thought I had it. Oh.
Well, it's time to grant.
No.
It's time to milk Grant.
No, even worse. Hang on. No, I took the iced coffee.
What?
Iced
Grant,
coffee,
form
huh?
sentences. Speak
Iced
to us.
coffee?
What?
Grant,
There's iced
Grant,
coffee
don't
in my
die.
backpack.
Iced coffee in your backpack, is it still good?
It's still chilled.
It's still chilled? Okay, it should be good
It's
then.
good. It's fun.
As long as it's not lukewarm, you're good.
Does anyone know how to get to the Doman Enclave?
Yes.
Because I want to go to the junk manga because there's an item there I want.
Do you have the main aetherite there?
The what?
There's an aether right there.
No, I don't believe so.
So down on the shoreline something.
'Tis plain our Asian counterpart meaneth to follow whosever we lead. Were it otherwise, he would not suffer the overabundance of light in these woods. Verily, to pervadeth every corner, and so long as the Light Warden remaineth, the Sin Eater shall be free to prey upon these lands without surcease. If naught is done, 'tis but a matter of time before the blessed succumb. 2 years pass, a swarm of Sin Eaters did layeth onto their largest settlement, killing a great many of their priests in doing so. Though some few did survive, they knew not how to go on. Wayward souls in want of a guiding hand for mercy, Y'shtola hath provided that which they sorely needed. They have since endeavored to restore their home, and thither shall we bend our steps. To Fort Gong.
Would you help me level white mage at some point?
Right.
Because white mage is the only healer I'm actually okay at. All the other ones I'm terrible at.
Radio. But yeah, okay, so to put into context, I purchased some iced mochas from the grocery store at like 4:30, and they were in my backpack. And the room is chill, like the room is like air conditioned and what have you. There was perspiration, like there's perspiration because, you know, it was a cold drink in a backpack. Where's my chocobo? There it is.
Yeah, like we said, as long as it's still chilled, it would be okay. It's when it gets lukewarm that you gotta start questioning whether it's okay or not.
Will it be a case of I just need to open it and then just smell it, and I'll know if it's bad or not?
Yeah, but if you say it's chilled, I'm gonna assume it's probably good.
Okay. Because otherwise I've just wasted like $11 of iced coffee. Because I was an idiot, and I forgot to refrigerate it the minute I was back home. It's 7:30 right now, so that is 3 hours in... Yeah.
Oh yeah, 3 hours is fine.
3 hours?
I sometimes have... Not gonna lie, I sometimes have iced coffees that sit there for like 5 hours before I'm like, okay, maybe now it's time to pour it down the sink.
Yeah, because what's more, it was in a backpack. Like, there's no heating elements in the backpack, so it stayed, like, relatively cool because it's, you know, that kind of a thing. So, and I reckon, like, you know, you could give a kid, like, chalky milk in their backpack in one of those things, and that usually lasts for, you know, 4 hours or more, and they're fine to drink the chalky milk.
It usually lasts until their first break, which is like, 4 hours.
Yeah. Oh my god, this place is ruined. It's like Mulan. But yay, Save-A-Lath was my... It's moving.
No, the movie. The movie's starting. Shh.
I see little sign of recent activity, nor hath any meaningful progress been made with the reconstruction. Mayhap Y'shtola sought shelter elsewhere. Come, let us quit this place.
Now! Surround them!
Oh my god. Jesus Christ. Wait, why is the Ascian with us? I thought he fucked off.
These Senators, they're not like the others.
Yeah, because
There's a reason for that. Lower your weapons, please. We mean you no harm.
Why the fuck would they think we're Sin Eaters?
How is it they can speak?
It's a Sin Eater trick. They mean to kill us all.
Oh my god, these guys are insane.
What, you're not gonna say Kupo?
Kupo?
That will seem a lot less amusing when we are forced to kill them.
Thanks, Thancred. Thank you for reminding me of the dire straits that we're in.
Oh, for the love of...
Oh my god, is it?
I had hoped that by accompanying you, we might come to understand one another. But all I have come to understand is that you have a knack for inflaming the natives. You've committed the cardinal sin of boring me. And so, I retire to the shade.
That is not helpful.
Good luck.
If he just vanishes out of... Oh, that's not helpful.
I love this vet.
That is not helpful to us.
That one disappear.
Fuck.
I think I preferred La Habrea.
Because of the cardinal sin of boring him.
I fucking love him so much.
Enough. Runar, report.
The amount... It's the sarcastic option from Walking Dead. Every option. Hi.
We apprehended them as you ordered, but are you certain these are Sin Eaters?
Wait, is he French?
The intense light of the ether I saw was unmistakable. If not Sin Eaters, then what?
It is passing queer that Y'shtola should mistake us for the enemy, is it not?
I think this was also the character
since
that
last she beheld the radiance of thine ether.
Cat might have been speaking about too.
Oh.
Master Matoya,
I gave it
hath
to my
time
deepest
truly
desires,
made
got chalky
strangers
milk.
of us?
Did you get me chalky milk?
Nay, I recognize you,
Do you live in
Urianger,
Australia?
Thancred.
Yes.
And this
Do
is
you live
Minfilia of the
within,
First, of whom you spoke
4
before.
hours of me?
Don't know.
Just so. And knowing as thou
Guess
must
we'll
that
never
we
know if
come
you
in
get chalky
peace, might I prevail upon
fuck
thee
you,
to
I'll
have
just
thy
make my
comrades
iced
lower
coffee.
their arms?
I could
First
make the
explain
joke
this
I made
other
before I
presence
was
in your
for the
company. The one I know not. There is but one manner of creature in this world whose ether is suffused with such an abundance of light.
Alright. What have I got left in my...
Mine apologies, Master
I
Matoya,
might
but
run a
thou
whole
art
bunch of crystalline
mistaken.
conflicts for now.
Before thee standeth our dearest comrade, the truest hero
Although
among
I've got
us.
still got so much left
Though
in
he is
my,
but recently arrived here in the
Bringing
First,
Wondrous
not
Journal I gotta
one
do.
but 2 Light Wardens have already perished by his most puissant hand.
Puissant.
It cannot be.
Does she not know what our Aether is being like?
She recognizes your ether, but right now you're kind of bleached out.
Crazy.
You're kind of like a less of. It's like it's sort of like hazy to her.
Okay.
You inhale 2 light wardens worth of aether. What do you think your aether is gonna look like?
I don't know, like the different, like brighter a little bit, but I thought it would still have like the same sort of aura, like how when you swap out from like a halogen light to an LED.
No.
Oh. Also, shout out to Eric saying that Runar is the reason they became a furry.
Valid. 100% valid.
That's 100% valid.
Nice. Nice to see you too, Master Matoya.
Goddamn.
Yep. Watch as she rethinks her entire choice of being blind.
Master Matoya?
The Starbucks.
Lower your
the
weapons.
Starbucks chocolate mix just hits different for some reason.
It's because it's not chocolate, it's a syrup.
No, this is
Forgive us
powder.
this hostile welcome. Come.
Hmm.
I would give you a proper introduction to Raktika and its people.
Yay.
I like how we have every fat chocobo.
I don't have a fat chocobo.
Didn't you get the digital upgrade?
No, I couldn't get there on time before the sale ended.
Ah, okay. Sorry about that.
That's my own fault for sort of humming and ahhing on it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, Tatsu were actually missing one.
Is it bread?
No, it is a
Nope,
yellow
the
one
royal
with
one.
brown.
Oh, that's right. Listen, I was talking about colors, not crowns.
Yeah, hang on a second, because isn't there like an achievement in...
3,000. What's it called? Right.
Sovereign Barding for the 300 player accommodations. Gilded armor.
You want the parade, Chocobo?
Yeah, there it is. 3,000 accommodations.
I only have 117. Also, that runs, so you're gonna check.
Wow.
Because we probably have some that I haven't claimed.
Wait, so you only have 100 accommodations?
Yeah, but that's because I usually play a tank or DPS. If you play a healer, you get a lot more.
I've only been playing
That's
tank.
why.
That is, yeah, like Tatsu, I've only been playing tanks. And what's more is like, I'm usually one of like the last
Bunch is a
people
bad tank,
out.
Apparently, if a bunch is a bad tank, apparently.
You don't do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I guess I usually craft it together. I don't usually do dungeons.
Because I've done, because of like the Wondrous Tales, like some of them like most recently, yeah, sure, I'll do like a lot of these like just solo, but the fact that I have to do like these roulettes and then most of these I'm doing with people as well, I'm
Speaking
staying...
of Grant, you've got all the same ones pretty much I do for today's lot, except for Whirly and I got Striking Tree.
Oh, nice, we can go through those.
What's that for?
Oh, the Wondrous Tales. It's still so useful. If you go through Wondrous Tales, even if you don't get any of the lines, you're guaranteed 50% of a level up.
I am still yet to actually finish one of the Wondrous trades.
Honestly, this is probably one of the better ways of sort of giving you another thing of helping you level up, because it's 50% no matter what. So you could use like one of your... So like, this is a really useful means of leveling up like on the later levels some of your characters. Because, you know, whether you're doing it at level 90 or level 80, if you whichever character you hand it in with, it's 50% of that character. So like for this instant, because I'm on Gunbreaker and I need like 6.1 million XP, this will give me like 3.08. If I had like a different class, it would be a different value, depending on...
Yeah, I get you.
So yeah. Alright. Gotta talk to Y'shtola. Who would like to do the voice of the cranky old cat girl?
I mean, I can if you want.
Sash just gonna put on her Bobby voice real quick.
Yep, she's gonna put on her I'm disappointed in you
You have been busy since arriving in the first, I gather, but I would hear the tale of your travels in a more suitable surroundings. With Fort gone yet to be rebuilt, the Knights Blessed have made their home in a settlement to the northeast. I will await you at its entrance. Follow the path through yonder gate and you will find me soon enough.
Hi there, Velk. And yes, thank you, Velk. It's also how you power level in the new expansions as well. Also,
Yeah.
check
Who wants
it
to
out,
do some
Velk.
Wondrous Tales with me?
I'll probably join in with you on that one.
What are we doing?
So you'll need to go to Idleshire and make sure you have a Wondrous Tales book.
Yeah, I'll have to refresh mine.
Look at this. Look at this conga line of
fat burbs.
Fat burbs. Look at them. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, because I'm on 6. I only need 2 more to finish my book.
Nice. Wait,
I
you
don't
need
have any
9
lines,
seals. How does?
Oh, sorry, 3 more.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, the math should be a case of, like, you know, you need...
I'm no good at math, okay?
It's always been 9! How did you screw up 9 minus 6?
Numbers are hard!
It's all on one hand!
2 hands, technically. Grant's gonna strike me in a second.
Nah, you're fine.
Chad, I'm scared. Gonna hit me.
Alright.
I'll go do that real quick. I'll go get the book.
Yeah. Alright, Sash.
So you guys should stop following me. You gotta follow Grant.
Oh, there you are. I was beginning to worry. Much like the Trolls would, this forest has a way of dealing with those who stray too far from the beaten path. But I digress. Let me show you to the home of the Knights Blessed.
Nice. I've already got my book, so I don't need to do the teleportation.
Wait, why are we teleporting to Idleshire?
So, because Tatsu needs a new book. We're about to demonstrate how you go through the Wondrous Tales as quickly as you can. Because it's basically a case of you go through this, where it's like, oh, any dungeon of the 1 to 49. You could quite literally just go into any one of them. Same for the 50. 51 to 59, normally sometimes I just go through a actual roulette for that, and then level 60 is you just pick a mission. These ones are a case of finding a party, and these ones I solo. I don't know how I would do Nidhogg's Rage. I don't know if I'm that good at it yet.
No, Nidhogg's Rage, because it's the Minstrel's Ballad one, it's actually harder.
Ah, fair enough.
So you would definitely need to have a party for that one.
Radio.
Hey, Alexander's one of my favorites. Nice. I love Alexander.
Slitherbow is the largest of the blessed settlements.
I did worry.
They worship
right
no
out here in front
gods,
of Chloe.
instead revering
I'm
darkness
running
itself.
back. I'm coming to say hi.
It is a curious kind of faith, but one which has granted them the strength to
1
persevere in the wake
70,
of the
80,
flood.
and then 90. Can't hear due to ads, but wanted to point that out. Radio, thank you, Xerix. My book still shows 1 to 49, 50 to 59, and then a 60. So mine's slightly different.
Damn.
I hope you weren't expecting a grand
Poser.
feast by way of
Everybody
welcome.
poser.
They are
Get
a
dabbed
simple
on some.
people.
Damn. Got dabbed on.
Now, I would hear of your travels away from
Dance
prying
with you,
ears.
Or,
Come.
Or, because you made me so sad. I'm not dead.
He died.
At ease.
Bam.
You know what? Come here. You wanna fight me?
I see. And now you seek the Light Warden of
Oh,
Rectica.
your tiny hands are like little baby fists.
I am a
In the days
caster right
after I
now.
arrived
Don't
in the
believe me.
first, I too relied upon the Crystal Exarch for
Oh, I'm
guidance.
sorry, we're being casters.
But
Okay,
his
hang on,
penchant
let
for
me
secrecy
just,
and the telling of half-truths soon lost him my trust. And thus did I strike out on my own.
Listen.
My work
Okay,
eventually
fine,
led me
okay.
here to the forest, which I've
Ah,
come to
now you're
know
at
like the
night.
back of my
Ah,
hand. I
You're
cannot
moving
say
up
with
in the
certainty
world.
where your quarry is hiding, but I am confident I can narrow the search.
Well, go on then.
Thank you, Thancred.
Some few thousand years ago, this forest stood at the heart of the Empire of Ronka. A great many relics of that civilization can still be found to the east in Ixmaya. Or rather, could be found, were the area not fiercely guarded. Ixmaya, you see, is home to a tribe of warriors whose lineage is said to date back to the time of the Empire.
God damn, they're in
Any
heels.
attempt to enter their territory is met with lethal force.
Look at them heels.
They offer no warnings and suffer no trespasser to escape. Needless to say, my every attempt to survey the area has been thwarted.
Are you seeing these sexy heels?
Mayhap
Oh, they're gone.
the warden hideth
I
there,
want to
foreknowing
walk the
none may
sexy heels.
approach it for fear of these protectors.
Anyway, right now I'm leveling up Gunbreaker because I'm gonna go through. I'm
As
gonna
for
go
the
like Grant. I'm
tablet-
gonna go through Shadowbringers with Gunbreaker.
Nice.
I find
luck
the
with that.
timing of its discovery
I
suspiciously
went through
convenient.
Shadowbringers.
If I did
with,
not know better, I would think
with my
someone was trying to
paladin.
curry favor with me.
Yeah, fair enough.
Which is why they're level 81. And then
well,
I went
'cause most-
through Endwalker as Black
Regardless, it
Mage
will take
because
time
I
to decipher
hadn't played
these
the game
writings.
for 2 years after I finished.
Yet I would not be at all surprised if they
Shadowbringers. I was like,
somehow held the key to
I
entering
don't feel
Ixmaya
confident taking-
unmolested.
I
The
DPS instead.
Exarch has a nose for
Most everybody else has
serendipity.
been helping me out in.
If there is aught I
in-game
can
have
do
all
to
been
assist
healers
thee in
and
unraveling
DPS.
their
I'm like,
secrets,
okay, I'm gonna have to go through
thou
as a
needst only
tank
ask.
for the next ones. That way, if Xerix or
Thank you,
any of my other
Urianger.
usuals
I may well take you up on
want to
that
help me
offer.
out, they can help me out with
While we set to work, might
Yeah,
I
by
suggest you take a
being-
tour of the city?
those, and I can be
Should
the
you
tank.
be in any doubt
Yeah.
as to the importance of your role
I
as
also
the warrior
said-
of darkness,
That's the Gunbreaker
the
outfit I
people
made.
here will surely
Yeah,
cure
I
you
love
of
it.
it.
You know what a better Gunbreaker outfit would be?
What's that?
Do
I
I have
must
it as a
say,
Glabber
Stola,
currently?
While most of us have struggled to come to terms with our altered circumstances,
I don't think I have it as a
you
Glabber
seem to have
currently.
adapted rather
Oh
well.
no!
I was going to say the Leon Heart set, but I don't have it as
Lest
a
you
Glabber currently.
forget,
Oh,
Master
yeah,
Matoya and
no,
I
I was-
dedicated our
I'm
lives
like,
to uncovering
I
the
don't want to
truth
go with
which
some. I
hides
don't
at the
want to
heart of
cosplay
our
as
world.
a character.
Yeah,
Though separate, the
yeah, I
fate
get
of this
you.
reflection is
I
nevertheless
wish there was
bound to
better
that
places
of our
to buy
home.
some of the hair
That I would be
for the
daunted by
Rothgar,
such
but
an
I think
invaluable
the only places
opportunity
you
is
can do that
absurd.
are in the Endwalker sets.
No.
But what of you,
You can
Thancred?
earn them through...
Could it be that you are
There's
still
some of the
struggling
golden
to come to
saucer,
terms with the
most
nature
of
of
them
your
are
young
actually
companion?
through
I've
gotten from there.
I've gotten a few, but I
just-
haven't gotten too many of them.
Y'shtola just cut into
My
Thancred with
struggles are none of your
his
concern.
the fact of Minfilia from the
Why you
first.
would speak thus and in this
Also, I
company,
noticed
I
he's
do
not
not
covering
know.
his eye anymore, so he's recovered
Perhaps you
that,
left
has he?
more of yourself back in the source than I assumed. If you'll excuse me.
I don't know.
Oh, jeez, did she piss him off?
Yeah, because she's just like, oh, you've adjusted, like, you know, you say I adjusted well. That's saying something with your
Understands that I'm
young
not the same.
companion.
That I'm not her.
Understands,
mean-
perhaps, but does not accept.
Honestly,
The
can you
question being whether he
blame...
ever will. And whether
Yes.
you will, more importantly. As difficult as your circumstances may be,
Also,
they are
Coach, you wanna know
yours,
what else
not
I find
his.
funny?
'Tis you and you
I chose
alone
to
who
be a
bears
DPS
ultimate
to play Endwalker
responsibility
with
for your
you.
life.
Yay!
I kept having so much trouble. I was like, Sash, I can't pass this dungeon that you're meant to do by yourself. Can you help me? Can you help me? What am I doing wrong? After about me getting halfway through,
But you need
the
not make any
expansion,
hard
Sash
choices
finally asked,
now.
She was like, "What
Why not go and
DPS
get
do
some
you play?"
fresh
I'm like,
air,
"I'm
clear
playing
your
Black
head."
Mage." She's like, "You chose the worst class to play with this expansion with."
Yeah, Sash said the same thing to me when I was going through Stormblood. I think he said the same thing to me about Stormblood going through that with the mage.
Like, because it Black Mage is a good class and it's a lot of fun, but it is near impossible to play unless you are extremely hyper situational aware.
Yeah.
Like,
I am not very hyper situational aware. A good example of this is in the beginning in the ARR. I could never pass the dragon mission as a black mage, which is why I unlocked the tank because I just couldn't. I just kept dying.
I
mean-
formed my opinion of the Black Mage from Pint's video and how it seemed like just a very painful experience.
If you are able to preemptively tell where you need to be standing at any given time, Black Mage is essential. But when you're learning the game, no.
Yeah, doesn't sound fun.
So the reason why the dragon was especially hard for me is because in that specific fight, you can't sit, so you have to move around constantly. And as a black mage, that's your worst nightmare. Having to move around. Fuck that.
That's when we do slide casting. Which again, if you're experienced, fine. If you're not, good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still trying to learn slide casting properly.
I
Honestly-
started playing with controller, which actually sort of made things a little easier for me.
I would love to be able to play this on controller, truthfully. I just don't know how well I'd be able to remap my brain.
I can send you a few videos if you'd like, Sash, from a guy that I was sort of like, all the builds for each of the classes and everything like that, really great setups. Because what he does is he has all of his AoEs on the left, and his single targets on the right, and everything that's majorly needed is going to be on the A, B, X, Y buttons, with the minor stuff being on the D-pad.
Because that's my biggest thing, is just where to put all the buttons.
I have a similar.
I'll send them to you because they're really good. I love their videos and they're so easily explained.
I have a similar problem to Sash, where my brain is sort of like, hey, I need all of these buttons, so I need all of these buttons, and then when I think of putting all these buttons on the controller, my brain can't comprehend that we can put this many buttons on the controller.
Alright, do you want me to do read?
Oh yeah, because it's your Stola.
I am not indifferent to Thancred's troubles. Nevertheless, I will not apologize for holding him to a higher standard after all these years. He has ever been a man of considerable resolve, and that is what I will continue to expect. Though it heartens me to know that some of us remain ourselves in spite of our present circumstances. I can but imagine how Alize and Alphino have changed since arriving here at first.
Change is part of life. We can but hope, but it changes for the better.
You are right. And after my untoward remarks to Thancred, no doubt he thinks I changed for the worse. I will have to speak with him later. Returning to the matter at hand, I really must begin to work on deciphering this tablet. In the meantime, perhaps you should take a look around Slitherbow. If there's anything you need, pray, speak with Runar.
Nice.
I shall be right back. I'm gonna do a quick leveling dungeon to try and get the 50.
Alright, fair enough.
Oh, do you want me to give you a hand, Patsu?
If you want to. I'm gonna be playing white mage, so
Well, I'm gonna be tank, so that'll mean all we gotta do is wait on a couple of DPSs. Also, I was sending you the videos there, Sash.
I will say this more in the way of I might panic.
Well, okay, since Grant is just doing walk around, do you want me to be a DPS?
If you want to be a DPS.
Yeah, I'll come DPS.
I'm still not very used to tanking, so you will have to forgive me if I'm terrible at tanking.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a run-around sort of mission, isn't it? Welcome, friend. Welcome. My apology. Oh, it's doing the auto thingamajiggy. Tell me, what is your name? From where do you hail? From the Crystarium, I see. And this tablet you've brought may help us find the Light Warden here in Ratika. Well, you are welcome to stay with us for as long as you need. Come, let me show you around. I'm trying to pull on a French accent. I don't know how well I'm doing this. Would it be alright if I joined you? Of course, of course. Anything for the guest of our dearest Master Matoya. Thank you. She means a great deal to the Knights Blessed, doesn't she? If not for her, we may have all perished in the Great Fire. With our priests slain and our homes in ruins, we were at the mercy of the Senita. It was she who drove them back, and with her sage guidance, we were able to rebuild. Before long, she became a central figure in our community, a great oak within whose shadow may have come to find solace. That is not to say they were not those
Oh crap! I didn't have my. Sorry.
That is not to say they were not those hesitant to grant an outsider such authority, myself included. Perhaps it is smile in her eyes when she speaks of the sunless sea. I feel whole again, now that she is with us, and I have no doubt the others feel the same. She is as much a part of the Night's Blessed as any of us, and we are grateful for all she does in service to the dark. But did you not hear this from me? Yes. Now, you should know these are certain customs we ask guests to adhere to, so long as they reside within Slitherbow. To show reverence to the dark? In a word, yes. But fear not, it is not too involved. Let us begin with something simple. Follow me.
Do my next mission.
I need to get, I need to do the Naval Extreme.
Oh, I can do that with you.
Yep.
If we do that, I'm getting the train closer.
Alrighty then. Do you want to send
I'll-
me an invite? Hang on, I'll
Yeah.
disband the party. That way I can join up with
change.
you.
I'll change my class as well.
So, because we can do the extreme, like, unsynced and all that with the number of people that we have. And it still applies to the Wondrous Tale. Because I've got Naval,
Fix my book now.
the Mistral's Ballad for the Ultima's Bane.
I can't do it unsynced with my lower level, can I? It's only higher level.
You can.
I can? Okay.
I was piggybacked when going through an extreme with like a Titan when I was at like level 50.
You don't get XP though, do you, for doing it?
No, you don't. But like, let's be real. Like, going through the Wondrous
Not
Tales,
really worth it either way.
it's not really worth it when you can, if you can get the Wondrous Tales done before the deadline. Like, because I'm pretty sure once you complete this like Wondrous Tales, you're supposed to get them like once a week. So we might be able to pick up another Wondrous Tales once this one's complete.
All right. Tatsu, you're gonna need to invite Grant.
Yeah, no, I was waiting for them to leave the party.
Yeah, I deleted the party.
Okay. It hadn't updated for me yet. There we go.
Yep. All right. Join. There we go.
So which one are we doing?
So
I've got the Naval Extreme that I've got to do, and I think that's one that Grant and I share.
Yep, I have to do the naval as well.
I don't know if I do, but yeah, I know which one it is. Also, I can't do it for lower level.
Oh, make Grant the party leader since he's got all the quests.
Or do it for levels. No, I have the quest. I just need to change my class because I can't be lower level.
Ah, okay.
Oh, what? Even unsynced?
Yeah.
You need to be at least level...
Level 50. I need to be at least the level of the quest.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We'll just make it faster. I'll be my highest level. And
Yeah.
you said it was the Naval Extreme?
Yep. So, Trials... Yep, there we go. Did you unsync it?
Yeah.
Alright.
We're gonna build this thing.
Sierra named Viara find me.
Oh my god.
It's gonna be interesting to see how I do, because the last time I tried soloing this, it was easy with the Watsumahuzi with the warrior, but the Gunbreaker it does not take a good time with.
We're
And he flew.
Yeah. You can stay where you are, Code.
Oh, I had no worries about staying where I am. It's just I put leyline up the first second I jumped in, and now.
Oh, leyline?
Oh, you put yourself so close to the edge there.
I was worried you were gonna go fucking yeet.
No,
Yeah,
I was paying attention. I was paying attention. I was just in.
Yep.
The second I saw the
Get fired. Get fired.
Will you just stay still for 5 seconds so I can actually hit you with ice?
Oh my god. I can't fucking.
There we
You're
go.
okay.
You melted
Here's,
Titan as Gunbreaker.
I don't even
Oh!
need to
Okay, I already have the whistle, so I'm a pass on that.
Yeah, I also have this whistle already. I think
Yeah,
everyone
same.
does.
Oh, does everyone have this
Got
whistle?
Dad.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I've got it.
Well, I'll greed
I
on the
shall
other two
greed.
things.
I want that big green because I already have it. I thought you could tell it you can't. Got any past?
Yeah. So, because I'm unable to acquire the whistle. But yeah, that's good.
Fun fact, I actually got Nightmare long before I got it recently. But I didn't realize that it was the Nightmare whistle until I looked at the logs afterwards because I thought it was the same mount drop that I'd already been getting.
Oh.
I looked at the whistle and went, oh, and then didn't realize it was Nightmare, and then looked at the logs and said, you passed on Nightmare, and I went, I fucking hate myself.
Alrighty then, Tatsu. What
Okay,
is...
we'll have the Wall Eater.
I have the Whirl Eater.
Yes.
I don't.
So that's three. Three of us have Well Eater.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we do that one next?
Yep. That one is a slight... And that one's also an annoying lengthy one. Like, it's not like Titan or... It's not like Titan or Ifrit where they go really fast just because of Whirl Eater's whole, like, you know...
Yeah.
Doing the bubble nonsense and shit.
And hopefully with the four of us, we won't die very quickly if one of us fucks up and ends up in the drink, aka most likely me.
It could also have been me as well. I remember doing this one with you, Code, and we were both fucking up so much. Oh,
Yeah, we ended up in the drink so
have you not
hard.
gone through this
Not
cutscene before, Tatsu?
I haven't done, like I said, I haven't done many of the mount farming, so I haven't done many of
Okay.
Plus, Grant, how do you like my new
Remind me
outfit?
to take you mount farming sometimes, Tatsu, 'cause I fucking love it.
I've only got the Titan horse. Every other mount I don't have.
Yeah. I totally forgot I could have just used my rough divide thing so much sooner.
So if you ever feel like farming something special, just DM me. I'll be like, yep, let's fucking go. This way, this way, this way, this way, this way. Oh, the thing's up. I forgot
The
about
first one
And
is
if
free.
the vent wasn't there, Grant would have ended up in the drink.
Look, the first one is free, okay? It's fine.
Get the yes.
Just like crack, the first one is free.
God, imagine if drugs operated in that fashion in neighborhoods where they were just like, oh yeah, the first one's free. So
Probably how most of them do it.
Was it the head or the tail that took more from magic damage?
Have a look at their debuffs.
Oh, you're right.
I actually can't remember.
You're right. I forgot that they had debuffs. Run!
I should not be allowed.
Click the middle thing.
Yep.
Alright, rails are gone, all bets are off.
Alrighty then.
We had no longer say.
Oh.
Who's first in the drink?
Yeah, that would be me.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
me too.
Okay, it's you and me, Code, just not like old times.
We're fucked.
Just like old times.
Does Sash survive? You could have resurrected him. Sash didn't.
No, I'm dumb, cousin. Why would you stick with me?
My brain.
I love how the both of you were like, oh, we need to do this, and it's just like, oh, you
So
forgot.
you see, my brain did the Filipino see it go there. I was like, oh, it's gonna slap and go towards that hill.
Yeah, see, my brain was set to Leviathan Part 2, and I'm not explaining that either.
Alrighty then, cool.
I forgot that was all Leviathan Part 2 and I haven't done it yet.
Electric Boogaloo is fucked up, and that one go towards the jet, not away from it.
That one there is also I'm not gonna say that just gets the
Oh god, oh god, oh god, Code takes the auto!
Oh no.
Okay, but you can't tell me this is not amusing. Oh, there goes my body!
I'm back in the water, baby!
There goes Code.
I need to remember my bubble.
Come up!
Which one do I aim for? None of them are taking hits.
Go for the tail.
Yeah, the tail, good tail.
The tail's not taking any damage.
I'm just gonna
Both of
lay
them are
here.
invincible. Wait, why?
Yeah.
Why is he invincible right now?
Yeah, I think it's bugs because we killed the two boss.
Nah, elemental converter. There we go.
Coming.
Oh, god damn it! I love it. You said incoming just as it popped
It's
up.
amazing. That was amazing. I love
Ah.
mount farming. I love mount farming.
Alrighty then.
Like,
Especially when
even
silly
at this
stuff like that
level,
happens.
even at this level, you get silly shit happen, and I love it.
There we go. Alrighty, here comes the. So this one is freebie.
Here comes the sploosh.
Patsy, you did the thing again.
See, I'm saying. I'm going with DB.
So close, sure.
You ready? Big boy damage.
Alrighty.
Kill the spheres.
I really need to learn how to Sage. I'm just pressing buttons at this point.
That's how I play every class.
Alright.
I press buttons and
I mean, isn't that the basis of every class? Just fucking.
Well, no, because a lot of them will have a like a rotation that you don't have to be like on point with it, but it's very helpful to get back to the match.
I find with like casting classes, the main thing is, you know, the ABCs always be casting.
Yep. Alright, up this way.
Up. Everyone up this way. Come on, hurry up.
There we go. And then.
Nobody in the drink.
Yay! Did it!
Because we had the DPS.
Yes!
I deal damage when I'm alive, guys. I'm sorry to say I deal damage.
Oh, look,
I had a
the
big
sword
explosion
shields.
move.
Those are pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. Nice.
What do we get?
Sword, the Dark Knight sword and the shield.
Wait, was the Dark Knight? Was that a Dark Knight? Oh, it was a Dark Knight sword.
Yeah.
I think I have technically all the weapons from
God damn it, Code.
from all the different. Oh, has Code been doing
Good.
nice?
Did Code get everything?
I got everything on that one.
Oh, it's so sad.
I
Alrighty.
stole from you all.
So Tatsu, what do you have next on your little row of like the duties thing?
I have Deep Dungeons, which is fucking
Oh, is that?
House of the Dead.
Wait, this is on your third row.
Later.
So you've done. Hang on.
I've done the 2 extremes that it gives you. I got
There should be.
Fourth.
There should be 4.
Oh, you've got Earth Fonts?
Yeah, I've got Earth Fourth and Containment Bay S1 T7 extreme.
Yeah, I've got.
Yeah, I've got Earthspawn and S1T7.
I've also got the Great Hunt extreme.
Great Hunt is good. Actually, you guys could do Great Hunt. Have you ever done it?
Nope, never heard of it.
It's the Monster Hunter crossover.
Oh, I don't have that one yet.
I don't think I have that one either.
It's Stormblood, so you should be able to get it.
Whereabouts?
You gotta go to Kugane, I'm pretty sure.
Hang on.
So wait, Stormblood, Wreath of Snakes, Hells, Jade, Castrum, Royal something or other,
Because I do
Dimension.
want. I want the Palico.
All right, hang on a second.
That is where you unlock the Palico.
So Hinagashi, we got to go over to Kugane.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
No, we won't use the free teleport.
It'll most likely be a green one, blue one.
Alrighty then. You'd love to join Xerix? Yeah, join on in. This one might be an interesting one to do. All right, so
Yeah, this one's an 8-person raid too, so we can have more people.
New king on the block.
No, the Extreme's 8-person.
Yeah, we'll see extreme we need.
3-star veteran.
It's above that, Grant. Further up. Left. Up. Yeah.
Oh,
new king
okay.
on the block.
Yep. Alrighty
Okay,
then. I see
so I
it.
was right. New king on the block.
All right, so yeah, because me and Code haven't done that. I've not done a lot of the blue ticks for Stormblood because it's been a case of got through the patch content of Stormblood. Now it's on to Shadowbringers. It's not the same as. Sorry.
I need to go through and do the some of the other stuff as. Oh wow, he's fully dressed as in Monster Hunter gear by the looks of it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the Monster Hunter crossover. You could get the gear, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. So you can get the Rathalos gear set. There's the mount.
I still need the mount.
I have the mount, but
Alright.
like Fuck me, that was a grind.
Let's see.
It really is. That's the only reason I haven't done it yet, because I don't want to grind.
The hearty hunter saying, well, well, if it isn't my old rival, GrantZeebs. I don't remember
Except we
this
have
man.
no fucking idea who you are.
Come at last. Come at last to learn from a true hunter of elite marks, have you? Huh? Forgive me if I seem overly presumptuous. Being the renowned adventurer that you are, I've always considered you to be a rival of sorts. A little healthy competition goes a long way in keeping one's skills sharp, you know? Aye, but actually, Code, you can read this. You're probably up to Smithy's point.
No, I'm way past it. I've been reading it on my own.
Oh, goddammit.
Huh?
Alright, wait till Grant finishes.
The Great Hunt is an 8-person raid Sash. 2 tanks, 2 heals, 4 DPS.
But a hunter ain't worth shite without a smithy to keep him armored and armed. You'll have to excuse him. He's never been one for social graces, but he's a damn fine hunter, and what he brings back to the forge keeps me in business. Who has time for grace when the game is afoot? Which reminds me, I have news of a quarry that may pique your interest. I recently came across a rather peculiar bill on the clan hunt board. Here, have a look.
So who was wanting to join us, Grant?
Xerix. He's right here
wanted to
next to me.
Okay. Because they can't join us, it's an 8-person raid, like I
The
thought.
bill depicts a crimson wyvern unlike anything you have ever seen.
It's 4-person.
Yep.
So is it normal, I just checked.
Strange, isn't it? Not only is this drawing unabashedly crude, but the bill itself lacks the formality expected of anything approved by the Centuro clan. Still, a bounty is a bounty. Before setting out, though, I thought it wise to first confirm the details of the request, and therein lies the rub. The clansmen weren't even aware of this bill has been posted. Likely the escapades of some mischievous youth, they said. But if this beast truly is out there somewhere, what manner of hunter would I be if I couldn't go and find out? And from what I've been told, you're never one to back down from a chance at adventure. So how about it? Will you take up the hunt? Count me in.
Yeah.
No.
Sash, you got it mixed up. It's the extreme that's only 4 people. The
Yeah,
normal
that's what I
8.
said afterwards, that the extreme's 4.
Okay, so we're gonna have to blitz through this stuff?
Yeah, it shouldn't take too long for the first one. It's interesting though, because there's a section where healers can't heal you, and you have to use potions instead.
Oh god. I'll even...
But it's potions they give you.
Okay, thank Christ. I'll even give you a hint to get you on your way. The beast we're after is Rathalos, King of the Skies, they call it. From what I've gathered, it was last spotted somewhere around the Azim Steppe. You're like to learn more if you speak with the locals at Reunion. As for me, I still need to prepare before I can head out, so consider this a head start. Good luck, Grant, and may the best hunter win. There are so many blue ticks that I'm gonna need to get around this place.
You don't want to know a funny story?
Do tell.
I just came over the Azim step and hit my mount roulette button, and guess which mount came out?
The
Tiny
Monster Hunter one?
The Rathalos mount.
Oh my god, look at these two. Alright, is Zarix in the... Yeah, Zarix is in the thingy-majiggy.
Just squat, squat, squat.
Alrighty, do I need... Alright, so we got the 3-star veteran clan thingy-majiggy there. Do I need the Wandering Mistral or the Dramaticus Personae?
So the Wandering Minstrel will unlock the extreme, but I think you have to do the regular first.
Yep, okay. Oh, but it will unlock the extreme for some of the stuff that I have on my, that I haven't yet, like, done. Because I have all these Stormblood trials, but none of them are extremes.
Yeah, Wandering Minstrel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll need
I need to at some point. I need to do the 4 elementals that you did earlier.
4 lords.
The 4 lords. Thank you.
Oh, this is Kugane.
Because I think that's how I get to the Doman Enclave. Because I got to do that to get to there.
Yeah.
We shouldn't do.
Oh, there's so many I need to talk about. Yep. Here we go.
You can probably just skim through those.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, so it just unlocks the extremes, like, just right away. That's cool. I now have the extremes available. If only any of you played on EU.
Unlock the extreme?
Pool of Tribute Extreme unlock. You gotta talk to the Wandering Mistral, and it's like, talk to him about these things. I don't want to talk to...
Oh yeah, Shinryu Extreme.
Talk to the minstrel about his dreams.
Yes. His inspiration. And he's like, you know, I thought of being in a world where materia was very low in number and the aether was draining and that you had these people that could turn into the Titans. God.
He looks ridiculous in the,
I will never touch that extreme, even if someone paid me 20 million. Wait, which was the extreme? The Sasuno one?
Shinryu, probably.
Alrighty.
I'm willing to put money at Shinryu.
Yep.
Yep.
Shinryu.
Oh,
Shinryu
yeah.
terrifies mortal men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like doing the original one. I'm like, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god.
Yes, and there's an extreme. Imagine how that goes.
That will be fun to try and like do the Mount thingamadiggy for, though.
True. Especially since I skipped that one because it was part of the Moogle rewards at one point, and I'm like, cool, that's fine. I'm not doing the fight.
All right, and then we've got Kiaten giving us Dramatis Personae.
I'm gonna throw my head at the Bakor Kugane Tower.
Welcome, my lord. There is a young maiden here who wishes to speak with you. Can I skip this? I don't know what mission this gives.
Really?
Okay.
Oh, I know what this is.
Miss!
Like the Alliance raid.
Oh, it's one of the Alliance raids?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be real, I'm probably not going to be able to do it. Not many people do Alliance raids.
Well, they do queue for Alliance roulette, though.
Ah, okay. Here he is, the liberator of both Doma and Alamigo in the flesh. I am Lena Murilla. Lena Murilla, correspondent for The Raven. You may recognize me from my exposé on the secret lives of the homunculi. I don't read.
Oh, it's her.
I don't know her.
News reporter. Yeah.
I don't remember her. Is there a problem? Poor Himbo can't pronounce names. It's not my fault, okay? They do some really weird fucking names, okay? You try and tell- hang on a second. I need to hide you guys for a quick second. Hang on a second. You try and pronounce that name. Look at that fucking nonsense. Lena Murilla. Fucking ridiculous. How the fuck was I supposed to pronounce that normally?
With taco sauce?
Taco sauce does not help you with pronunciations.
I don't know.
Stop trying to get me to make tacos.
I want tacos now.
You don't. Well, I'm not making you tacos. Didn't you already
Yeah,
have
maybe.
dinner?
Yeah, but I haven't had second dinner yet.
I see we have a
Sire,
fellow
you
hobbit.
paid me to say Murila.
That was the TTS boss. You don't get to use the TTS bot to try and prove your point, Kiaru. The TTS bot is greater than any mortal in pronunciation. Alrighty. That would be my sister. People mistake us all the time. Same profession, you see. And we do bear a passing resemblance. When last I heard, she was still assigned to the Botanist Guild in Gridania, poor thing. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna skip this. Alrighty then. So we need to gather information at the reunion. No, I'm not gonna use the free teleportation ticket. That's insane.
So sad. I was getting so close to the top slash.
Still got time. Grant still has to unlock them.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just saying it's sad because I did very close and fell down.
Red Wyvern by the name. Sorry, must be mistaken. Heard story, certainly not by the name. Still, if this is slaying such a beast would bring great honor to the tribe. Bring honor to us all. Oh yeah, what am I thinking?
Oh, I still need... Okay, I need to go and do those bits too.
Red Wyvern.
You mean this red wyvern?
Oh, what the hell is this mission?
No, we mean the other Red Wyvern. Wait, Ramza?
Who's Ramza?
Ramza is from War of the Lion.
No idea what that means.
Final Fantasy Tactics.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't played any of the other Final Fantasies. That's on my to-do list, okay? I'll get through the Final Fantasies at some point. Right now, I'm still going through 14, and I have all of Yakuza to go through.
That sounds like we would. That sounds like we would like, keep the pause schedule. Like I'll get through World 1 yet.
I'm thinking once I've finished Divinity, I might go through either the Monster Hunter games, because now that Wilds is announced, or do Alan Wake, Control, and Alan Wake 2. I'll probably start with those ones first, given the fact that they're a little bit shorter to get through.
Yeah. Oh, hello.
Why is this one so hard? Specifically this one job?
Oh, it's not those that I have to kill. I'll have to... Because those are in like a little tracer thing. Oh, but I can kill these ones. Hang on a second.
I get it.
Bleh, 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 bleh.
Slay the 3 Purlols for some flowers.
I thought we were doing the... Oh, you guys are waiting on me, that's why. I mean, I'm worrying, I promise. I'm getting there.
Good.
I'm getting there as fast as my little legs will carry me.
Wait, I got little legs.
Alright, speak with the concerned merchant.
Oh my god, there's so many details on it. It's hilarious. Okay, so I need to go to this thing. Excuse me while I sprint. And then use this to close the distance. It's on my to-do list.
What other Final Fantasy games do you want to go through, Grant?
I kind of want to go through the first 6 because those were re-released on Whatsamahoozies on
Steam.
Yeah. Hang on, where does it want me going again?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind re-going through the first.
Lie in wait at the designated location. Oh, it's that way. Okay, hang on a second. Motorcycle. So, I know everyone's going through, like, Final Fantasy VII, like, the remake stuff, because it's now a trilogy, but I don't know, I'm just not... I don't feel rushed on that one. I don't know.
Yeah, I do want to go through that one a little later on, but I wouldn't mind redoing a lot of the originals first.
Yeah. Because there are some games where it's like, oh yeah, I absolutely get absorbed into the hype, like it was with Spider-Man 2 and such. But when it's titles like the most recent thing, like Lethal Company, it's like, I see the hype, but a part of me is just sort of like, yeah, like, I feel like I'd have way more fun by the fact that I'm with friends than from the game itself. And I'm not going to play the game by myself.
It has been kind of fun playing with Dazzy, although we need to fix his damn mic.
That's true.
Yeah.
I love that I can... Okay, I'll give you a second to get into this cutscene. I'll tell you why I'm giggling at this, just for a second.
Alright. Okay. Oh, it's the little, Palico. What's
it's Palico?
Palico. Hey, Tatsu, you want to voice a Palico?
What's this? Oh, a hunter? And a formidable one. Looking at that.
Huh? Nani?
Have you come to help then? To hunt the monster?
See, a talking cat, and what am I, Grant?
A talking cat?
I'm a, I'm a giant
dog
cat,
rod with
and
a
yet
talking cat?
I'm questioning this one.
Yeah.
Have you not seen the turtles and the fish around these spots?
Oh, I still love the joke of the fucking turtle person being like, a talking turtle! And we just all, like, slowly look
Look
at
at him like, are you sure you're okay?
Let's be real. If we saw a monkey start talking, all of us would be like, a talking monkey! We'd just be shocked and point.
Feline hunter, and I've come to this place in search of monsters, Raphalos to be precise. But even with 9 lives, I could never slay one on my own. That's why I posted that notice seeking help. There's a reason they're often referred to as King of the Skies after all. Some also call them fire wyverns, and on account of their ability to breathe fire. I feel awful, just thinking about all the hunters burned to cinders in their wake.
And there's a little roar that goes off.
Yes, and they roll exactly like that. Would you believe it's powerful enough to stun their prey?
Does this unlock it for us? Why is it that the Monster Hunter questline is like forever open and not the Final Fantasy 14?
The Final Fantasy 14 one is open.
Sorry, the Final Fantasy 15.
Oh yeah, that is a little weird.
Yeah, I couldn't beat it because I was having trouble with fucking Noctis keeping on dying to fucking Garuda. Because his AI is so fucking dumb, he'll walk into all of her attacks.
Yeah, okay.
I like how Ruffles is good. This is Biox.
Mine. I need to eat. And just takes it somewhere fucking else. Like, very rarely do animals do that shit. The whole taking their prey and taking it elsewhere.
That was him. That was Ruffles. Still willing to help, I hope?
Yeah, I reckon I am. Mm-hmm. Excuse me while I lay those clips into the scarf.
Yeah, I think the Monster Hunter crossover is one of the few that remains in the game. Most other ones, they do rotate in and out.
Yeah.
It's probably also because you can still do the Final Fantasy 14 quest within Monster Hunter World.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Rather than it being the part-time quests they normally do for those sorts of things.
Radio.
What a day. Both a monster and a ferocious hunter to slay it. I sure got the cream today. Let's hurry. He seems to be heading northwest, back into the mountains.
Mountains. Mountains.
Oh, before I forget, I never did ask you your name. Nice to meet you, Grant. Now let's be off.
Oh, I need to share you. I shared this TikTok with Code, but I'm gonna have to. It's gonna be a bit of a scroll finding it again. But basically, there was a Palico that saves a stunned hunter, and they just have and it has the text, "Mr. President, get down!" It's so funny.
Oh yeah.
So great. I need to find this. Oh, it's gonna be a bit of a scroll to get to it. Alright, I need to go this ways. Alrighty. Where?
I'm almost there. Just a little bit longer.
Grant, fly.
Yeah, Grant, fly, you lazy bastard.
How far back do I need to go for? I don't know how far back.
There's a giant behemoth standing right behind me, isn't there?
Hey, Code, look up.
Well, fuck. All I see is the giant behemoth and then the Rathalos just off to the other side. I'm like, well, fuck. Also, Behemoth in Monster Hunter World is ripped.
He's a bitch to fight.
Oh, I know, I know. His meteor is a lot more annoying in that than I've dealt with in this.
Is it? Oh.
Just flies right over. Just like all the jokes I ever tell Grant.
The Rathalos is somewhere along the path. I just know it. But I'm afraid you'll have to go without me. As I am right meow, I fear I'd only slow you down. Before you go, though, I insist you take these with you.
Take these nuts.
Gosh darn it. When catastrophe strikes, a hunter should never be without mega potions. I don't know if you normally keep medicine on hand to treat your wounds, but I guarantee you've never had anything quite like that. When you and your friends are ready to head on in, you do have friends to help, right?
Oh,
I think that's one of the first. I think that's one of the first times they referred to us being like, "Oh, you need a party for a dungeon." So.
You do have friends, don't you?
Oh no.
That hurts.
I shall make Great the leader, actually. That's probably a smarter idea.
Yep.
You get Great.
Be advised that while it can be used to restore its usage upon clearing the area, you can claim a special reward by examining the remains. Be sure to do so before leaving the instance. Alrighty.
Good to know.
Loot the raffle. You gotta make sure you get the card on the monster.
Yep. So it's this one. Enter Bardam's Medal, or no, enter the Great Hunt.
Great Hunt.
Yep.
But don't we want to underparty it?
Do we want to do it with just the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 we have?
Yeah.
Alrighty then. One moment. Unrestricted. Confirm. The Great Hunt.
I think between the 5 of us, we should be able to do it without much of a problem.
Hopefully so.
We'll fuck him up. See, we have health potions. It's a mega potion.
Oh, I love that it does the Monster Hunter World thing.
Yeah, it's so good.
I want to dance. Is that beast?
Blue, did you forget that I've removed your TTS privileges? You have to use bits if you want to use the TTS.
Like Goblin.
God.
Alright.
3 DPSs and me and a healer.
Emotional damage.
I love that you two are perfectly synced on that.
Blue Foxy Nicey Icy paid me to say infinity sign, 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 infinity sign,
Oh, do we have to kill these things?
infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity sign,
what the fuck?
infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity.
Leave me alone.
Sign, infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity sign,
Don't be
infinity
standing
sign,
around it,
infinity
because we'll knock
sign,
your ass out.
infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity
well, that's
sign,
annoying, 'cause
infinity
I'm a-
sign,
I'm a,
infinity sign,
like, melee
infinity sign, infinity
DPS.
sign, infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity
Come on,
sign,
Grant, have you learned
infinity sign,
nothing in
infinity
Monster
sign,
Hunter?
infinity sign,
No, because I don't
infinity
play
sign,
Monster
infinity
Hunter.
Infinity sign, 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 infinity infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity sign, infinity sign.
Oh my god!
Sign,
Get him,
infinity
Greg,
sign,
get him.
infinity sign,
Oh,
infinity sign,
it said active time, but I had nothing to do.
Infinity sign.
Oh, it's because we did the thing too early.
Hide behind the body.
You guys are gonna
Oh. Well, one of you can heal me. Thank you. I love how Zarex writes, kill this over here.
Don't forget you can only kill with Mega Potions.
Oh right, I can't heal him. You've got to heal yourself.
You gotta heal yourself with the potions.
There we go.
You can at least res me, can't you?
I gotta wait on cooldowns.
Damn cooldowns.
Imagine having cooldowns for the baby.
Yay, decline.
My god, even with a level 90 DPS here, this is taking forever. What the heck?
It's very powerful.
He's gonna be tanky until we knock his ass down.
Oh, we need to get to
Get on,
Zarex.
get on Zerx, get on Zerx.
Syra, you paid me to say
Wait, is the down gauge something we're trying to increase?
Yes.
Okay.
Come on, Grant.
I
Remember
will
everything I
say
told
when
you
he
in Monster
falls, go
Hunter.
for the tail.
Alrighty then.
You get extra drops.
There we go. There we go.
It should also stop him from doing that stupid attack of his, too.
Not necessarily, unfortunately, but it does take a huge chunk of health off.
Yeah.
Which is always a plus.
And
Nope,
also
stay
gives
away,
us
go
an
away,
extra
go away,
health at
go
the
away,
end.
go away. Why are you looking at me?
Oh, why is it provoke? Hang on. Should be at the top of my list.
Everyone on me.
Fuck.
Why?
Sorry, I tried to move towards everyone.
Hang on, I'm gonna do my, Why is it not...
Fuck.
Are you just doing that much more damage than me right now?
Ow! No, I think he doesn't really acknowledge.
Yeah, I don't think he acknowledges enmity.
Well, that's bullshit.
Just like in normal Monster Hunter rules.
Motherfucker attack through his legs.
This is not great, because... and we wanted to do, like, an extreme of this?
Yeah, we got to do the extreme. Listen, me and Sash don't even be damage once. Trust. Don't look at our health.
Nice, knockdown. Get him.
Get him.
So yeah, you see how much quicker his health bar goes down once you get him actually down.
Ah, okay. Radio.
And don't
There
forget
we
his
go,
core.
so make sure you carve your tail and your body.
Tanks cannot provoke in this. It can't be tanked. That's annoying.
Get carved. I'm gonna get a tail. I'm gonna do it.
That's it.
I'm gonna get some of that.
I
delicious
am
sweet
familiar with the whole like da, 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 and it like, you know, decides to like fall over and such. Ah, look at the palico.
Syra, you paid me to say
My baby.
Maybe
It'll be multiple drops if there's multiple drops, but it's really rare to get.
It's probably better if Bradley
I'm inside of him. I got eaten.
Hey, buddy.
Guarding. So I've got Rathalos's scale.
Yeah.
And another scale. Is there anywhere else?
That's all I got.
Or is it just the
No, it's
tail?
just body and tail.
Oh, okay. Alrighty. I need to scroll back up for Diggies and then feline. I saw the whole thing. That was magnificent. You even managed to retrieve a scale from his remains. I'm impressed. Also, hi there, Tappy Fox. Tabitha, welcome back. You even managed to... I realize this is sudden, but it would mean so much to me if I could join you on more adventures. Would you accept me as your palico? It would be my pleasure. I promise to be the perfect companion. And to think this is all because you saw my bill on the hunt board.
He's a perfect little meow.
A hunter in Kugane showed it to you. Curious, do you think we could go and pay them a visit? If not for this hunter, we would never have met. Off to Kugane. Alrighty. Ding, yep. And then boom. I'm trying to do like multiple things at once right now. I'm trying to find this goddamn tweet. Yep. I'm scrolling so far back trying to find this. We share so many fucking memes to each other.
Isn't that a good thing?
It is a good thing, except for, but TikTok doesn't have like a really good search function.
Or a history function. There we go. And then... Oh, look at the two of them out of sync. That They
should
just
do
be
it.
squatting.
They just be squatting, indeed. Ah, Grant! I thought you already left. With my preparations complete, you'll need to work fast if you need to beat me. But I did beat you. You've only meow finished preparing? What is that? Another monster in need of slaying? I'm no meownster, you brute. I'm Grant's faithful and dependable palico. A palico? My apologies. If you're as dependable as you are adorable, I've no doubt he values your companionship. But let's return to the matter at hand, shall we? Grant, are you ready to set out on our hunt for the Rathlos? I have already done such a thing, thank you very much.
He already did.
You already slayed him?
Hi, Grant.
Hi. Wait. Any shield that are not based on healing marks, like Aldo and don't work, are sincere.
Syra, you paid me to say if you don't like seeing ads, pay Bezos.
Thank you, Kiara. I probably could have said it in a better fashion than pay Bezos. I'd expect nothing less from my rival, indeed. You're every bit the adventurer I imagine you to be. Suppose that's what we get for the extra set of squats. Tell me, friend, were you able to recover anything from the body? Yes, I have. I'm trying to... Did I share the Palico thing, like, as far back as May? That's a mighty fine material for smithing. Oh my god, hang on. Ah! Oh my god, the app is like starting and stopping as I'm trying to scroll through this. Ah! The Wyvern scale, alright. Light as a feather, stronger than steel. If you'd like, I'd be more than willing to fashion you some armor with it. I'll need more than a single scale. Yep, no, makes sense. I remember this fucking TikTok. Leaders dying in the US versus dying in Australia. In the US. Oh my god. Somebody shot the president. Meanwhile in Australia. Guys, has anyone seen the Prime Minister? He just fucked off for a swim and we can't find him.
That's real.
That is very real. How the fuck do you lose a Prime Minister in the fucking ocean? Oh, Grant, I can't thank you enough for your help in slaying the Rathos. Where the I think I've gone past it. We got the Palico, and we get ourselves some barbecue spillets.
And then talk to him again for the next quest.
Which will unlock the extreme, which is a 4-person raid instead of an 8-person.
We can do it! We can do it!
Can be obtained by defeating Rathos in the Great Hunt. Yep, cool. Found it! I found the TikTok! Hang on, where's my Discord? Get down, Mr. President!
Took him that long to find it.
I just had to searching hashtags. I was like, right, Monster Hunter World, hashtag Monster Hunter, hashtag Palico, save. I found it. All right, hang on a second. Where is the chats? The messages. Dink. All right, there. All right, and now it's in the Discord, which means I can then go back onto my PC. This is important, chat. I will share it with you. Don't you worry. Copy the text. Paste it. There we go. Strummer gets money from us watching ads, so I don't care. Radio. And then this blue tick is the newer thingy-majiggy on the block, which is obviously to get the extreme version. All right, I'm catching up. There we go. Quest accepted. All right, and then...
Because don't forget, it's extreme!
Extreme!
Extreme.
Don't... There we go. Quest complete. Tabitha, how do you lose a Prime Minister in the fucking ocean? Very carefully. Thank you, Tabitha. That was honestly a question, wasn't it? Yay, we can now enter the extreme.
The only thing is you have to lose one member of the team.
How do you lose the Prime Minister in Australia? Most Australians, we have a Prime Minister.
This is a bloody outrage. I'm gonna take it with the Prime Minister. They start running over hills and mud, and then they start shouting at a Prime Minister in the middle of the Lake Nake, and they're like, "Oi, Prime Minister! Tony!"
I feel like the only time most Australians care about Prime Ministers is when something's going on. Like, okay, was this the Prime Minister's fault again?
No, it's one of those cases of like, when there's a crisis, they're like, all right, what's the Prime Minister saying about this? Like, let's be real. Most people did not like ScoMo, but it was because ScoMo didn't make it easy for people to like him.
Damn it. Yeah. Also, Grant, your audio's crackly.
Fuck. Oh my god, can you... Oh, how do you do the Kugane Tower thing?
I have never...
Do you really want to go down that rabbit hole?
Is it really that difficult? How hard can it be?
Come with me, Grant.
Yeah, I'm coming back to the...
Come with me, Grant.
Alrighty.
Oh, yes.
Prime Minister Hergy. I'm getting... Is Tatsu my best guide in trying to get up this tower?
Yes.
Alrighty. Okay, so Sashera is back, and we now have the extreme child to go through this thing.
See that little thing there? We jump up here. we're gonna jump around there.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're doing. Yep, and then... Alrighty, hang on.
Xerix, I made it!
There's a lot more to the tower than you think. It goes all the way to the top.
Yeah, no, I've seen the videos. They are like a lengthy adventure. Oop. So...
Siren paid me to say, you will never get up my tower.
Yeah, the extremes are full in.
Yeah, so I think we may have. I think Xerix says he will sit this out.
I'm gonna swap to a DPS.
Mm-hmm.
I've moved over to my my level 80 summoner for this one.
Oh my god. The last thing
Yeah.
Diggy didn't get me. You may once and never again. Noted. Alright, so... Wait, we're kicking Xerix out?
Yeah, Xerix.
Alright.
Oh, Xerix left.
Yeah, alrighty then. And
Alright,
then...
so someone needs to be a healer.
We don't need a healer, just DPS.
Oh yeah,
Can't heal.
because you can't
we
heal.
do need a healer because we need the Basener.
I was about to say, Sash is probably the highest DPS, the highest level healer.
Yeah,
I can
mine's
probably
only
pump out the highest DPS as healer, so it's fine.
Yep.
Yeah,
once I level up my white mage, I'll deal damage. Don't worry.
Nice.
Yeah, my only top level healer is. Oh no, wait, no, I've got Scholar as my top level healer at level 80.
Oh.
Scholar starts at 70, doesn't it?
No.
No, that's Sage at 70. Scholar and Summoner will level up at the same time, so if you get the Summoner to level 80, your Scholar's going to be at level 80.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, by the way, Tatsu, I would recommend if you want to play a caster, you can play Summoner.
Radio.
I tried.
Alright,
I tried.
will say this, because of the extreme, do not stand in front of them. Don't get hit by the front of the rocks.
I tried to play Scholar with Dazzy, and Dazzy died 7 times in a row. I can't Scholar.
I will teach you how to play.
Alright, helps if I have Carbuncle out.
Might do. Oh, you fuck!
Why am I casting fucking Blizzard 1? Why did my brain instant go
Why do I have a ring around me? That's
He's
why I have a ring
gonna
around me.
shooting you a fireball. The animals actually attack the dragon, don't they?
Not necessarily. Fuck.
Fireball!
It's wizard time, motherfucker! Fireball!
I almost ran that fucking fire, the fucking Sash. Sash was about to get real angry real quick.
Alright, mount up.
Yep.
Everyone else on DPS?
Yep, got it.
Foothold?
No, the Garula needs DPSing, not the dragon.
Oh, okay.
Because this is our safe spot. Y'all need to get in here.
You're right.
I remember this.
I go to your time.
Yep, I remembered that just in the
Okay.
nick of time.
I'm out of heals. Y'all are on your own.
Motherfucker, I cast explosion! Explosion!
Stack.
Again, LB?
Yep.
Again?
He does it 3 times.
You can't heal me, Sash.
No, I know, but I
No, but there's the mega potions for the Dewey.
Oh, but I just realized that your fucking thing is healing me. I'm like, why am I getting heals cast on me?
Ow.
Yeah, the only thing that's not affected by this heals is most likely her little fairy.
Oh no, the heals are still doing nothing by the fairy, but the fairy's out regardless. You guys need to stack.
Eat a potion code.
Yep, doing that now.
Listen, it's only a little damage. I can probably take it.
Here I was running perpendicular to him, like an idiot.
I'm a black mage. I'm a tank on it.
Here goes, tail.
My god, I fucking shredded that tail.
It's taking enough damage.
Get your ass up, go to fucking Grant! Grant!
Yeah, I got my tank thingamajiggy, so I can... There we go. Perfectly fine.
Time.
Which button is that one? Okay, I think I pressed the right button there.
I was casting, you bitch! Fuck you.
Yeah, I find Summoner is my favorite casting class.
I'm just gonna stand here and make a Morby place in the safe spot. I can take the fire. I don't do much damage. You should go away though, Grant.
Yeah, no,
you're
I'm
gonna
good.
die.
Yeah, no, that's why I like ran away to do a potion heal. Can you notice that I am not that good at like my awareness of shit?
Luckily, I'm level 90, so these things won't just to kill me like normally.
Alright, I can do this. He's on down. Get him.
Siren, you paid me to say correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe standing in the fire is bad.
Not that bad.
Yes, standing in the fire is a bad idea, but it's not the worst idea.
You could always do
If I can
guard
sack them all in one place, it's better having them in all in one place than like filling up the whole island with fire.
Yeah. Tabitha says...
you don't want to be hurt in the fire. You could always do what a great Garth Brooks song does.
If I did this on level, I would have to fucking move because I'm a fucking black mage.
There you go, there's a Poogie and the equestrian realm.
What?
Oh, from the chest.
Oh, there's a chest in the troop? I forgot about it.
It doesn't always spawn, but because we got lucky, you guys can roll on the Poogie and the...
I rolled neat. Oh my god, 4 scales. That was amazing.
Are you needing or are you
I got a
greeding?
Rathalos scale plus.
If you need it, you need it, Touch. We don't greed on this, because chances are everyone else is going to need roll.
No, that's why I'm asking Great if they've already needed or greeded.
I've needed.
I've needed.
Okay, needed is.
Fuck you, Code.
I got both of them. It was me.
Tatsu got
It was me.
both.
It was me alone. Look at me. I got a fucking pig. I got a fucking pig.
Grant is fucking me. It's like, well, fuck you too, Grant.
I got a fucking pig. Let's go. You want to see my pig?
Does anyone have the
Siren, you paid
amphitheater?
me to say, did you know?
I'll check
Fast
in a second,
spots
I'll
are
tell you
fun.
the pick.
Watch the
Okay.
fast spots.
I also need Uth's font done as well.
Don't have amphitheater.
Sorry, so... What do you
Me
need to
and
get
Sash are
done?
less likely to have the same mods as you guys because we have the Headwalker Duchess unlocked as well.
Yeah.
But what did you say? You said Amphitheater
and Uth's font.
I have Uth font.
Yeah, I also have those fonts. It's cool. Oh, that's fucking what's his
It's
name?
Odin.
Odin.
Yeah. No, it's easy.
Odinian.
You guys weren't gonna get Xeris back in?
I honestly forgot.
I didn't know you could do this one with.
You can do this solo.
Look at this shit. My fucking murderer one hit. Bam. Look at that shit. Did we get his mount? I want his mount. Where did you get the mount? That is a cool looking armor.
So,
though.
but the chest place is fucking cool.
Yeah.
I rolled only 4, but someone rolled lead. I
Yeah.
couldn't roll lead because it was for my class.
Sorry, Zach. Alright, so so the amphitheater is next?
Yep. Do we want to get Xerix in first?
Yep. Invite to party. Do you want to try and do it as a blue mage Xerix? I think it will be fun.
This isn't looking good for my lines currently.
Alright,
yeah, I've got no lines.
I got no lines also.
Shove.
So fucked.
That's looking a lot better. That's looking a little.
Isn't there like an achievement for going through like one of the
The music in this fight is dope as fuck.
It is dope as fuck.
Step on me, mommy.
It's true, Snash. I thought some step on me.
And Tatsu has not gone through this thing before.
I haven't done the extreme though. I can skip the cutscene though, because I've seen the original. It's just because I haven't seen it before, it doesn't always skip.
Ah, okay.
You ready? You ready? You ready? You ready to see how much damage I do? Let's do one of these. With a bam. Then it's a killer because of a fucking 50% change.
Just the little birds hanging out in the corner, just like, yeah, we'll let them do the...
Yep. Alrighty then. Do you have your secret pose ready?
Of when you get frozen?
Yep.
Look at me. Look at me. I'm ready. I'm posed. I'm ready to
I'm posed. Oh, and I still go.
Triple cuff time, baby.
Did he pose in a dab?
I posed in like the senior what's-a-mahoozy. I did Saboteur.
Look at this precious fucking creature.
Is that that's the Dark Knight weapon?
Yeah.
I'll pass on the
I'm passing on everything because I have all of the fucking coffers. And I still need to open them and be like, right, do I have this in my glamour cabinet? Nice. Alrighty.
Alright, that's my lot done, so I got no lines.
I have the Minstrel's Ballad Ultima's Bane.
Yeah, we can rock that.
Yeah. It should be a fast one.
Oh, this one. This is easy.
Mm.
I mean, between the between the five of us.
So wait, didn't you say you had Alexander Tatsu?
Yeah. What have I been
Gordius? Gordius.
I think that was the one. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, that's
oh, yeah, yeah, Gordius. You ready? You ready? You ready? You ready? Fucking dead.
17 seconds.
If I actually did damage, that would have also been faster because I was really looking to see what I had.
There we go. Alrighty. So out of the 4, here's the thing. I am very hopeful. Let me move this book in so it's a little more center. I'm very hopeful that I just need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just need these 5 to make my 3 lines. I have the Arm of the Sun as one of the Alexanders that I needed to do. Which of the Alexanders did you have?
Gordius.
The what, sorry?
Gordius. It says Alexander Gordius.
Never heard of that one before.
Might be an extreme.
Is it?
Soul of the Creator, heart, breath, eyes, burden, arm, cuff, fist, burden, arm, cuff, fist. I've never heard of this Gordius. Never heard of that before.
Yeah, no, none of them are called Gordius. Does it just mean any of them?
Oh, crap.
Oh, it could be the boss.
I fucked up.
How did you fuck up?
I handed it in with my summoner and not my gunbreaker.
Oh!
And that would have been a level on gunbreaker.
Can you pick up an...
Duty in the following category. Alexander, unless it's...
Oh, I got a new journal already.
Yeah.
So I've got Burden of the Father.
So, wait, Tatsu, so it said Gordius. Are you sure?
Yeah, no, that's what mine says too.
Okay, so it's the first section of the Alexander Age, so any of the ones
Oh,
in
it's
the
any
first
of them
section.
in the first, so Grant has to do the Sun, which is the second section.
Yeah, alright. But, Code, you had one for the Father, which is the first section?
Yeah, Burden of the Father.
Burden
So
of
if
the
we do
Father.
Burden of the Father, that's the three of us.
One of the party members does not meet the minimum requirement for this duty.
Oh, that might be
I
me.
loved it.
Have you not unlocked it yet?
No, I might be too low a level.
Level 60.
Hang on, were you guys going extreme or?
That should just be normal.
Yeah, Gordius is just normal. It doesn't say extreme.
Wait, Zarek's dropped out.
Because he said try again, so I think Zarex was,
Didn't have it. Which is kind of you should definitely do the Alexander raids. It's one of my favorite raids. Would highly recommend.
I'll probably do this last one, and then we'll probably have to get ready for bed because I picked up a morning shift tomorrow.
Ah, okay. I'm probably gonna sleep in tomorrow, and
Let's
try not
go
to eat
sleep
for
in.
24 hours.
Oh, you got a surgery or something?
No, I just been
Oh,
eating
it's
so many
this-
days, so it's just like, I just want to
What's
try
your
and...
stash? I'm gonna destroy this like. Did you see the big chunk of health I took out of that fucker?
I'll let you game tank as well, Grant. I'll
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, I have no valid targets now. What?
Yeah, he's still in a charge attack. Fucking meow. Fucking meow. Fucking meow. Says
I was gonna try and take the tether off you.
Says they wanted to hurt me. They looked at me funny.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it's just not satisfying doing what I feel like is supposed to be like the most powerful moves that the Gunbreaker can do compared to the most powerful moves the Warrior can do. Doesn't feel the same. Okay.
Don't open the chest, don't open the
None
chest.
of them, right? Not even the center one?
No, none of them. It's only in the extremes that you might want to open the chest.
Radio. Cool.
Because in the extremes you have chances to get the mounts.
Yep. Alrighty then. So I've got...
I'm gonna head off, guys, because I do need to get ready for bed.
Fair
Have a
enough.
good one.
Alrighty then. You have a good night, Code.
You have Seeker's
Sash
Spell?
Tats, do you mind joining with me for Arm of the Sun then?
Yeah, definitely.
Alrighty. Let's go.
Wait, is this level 60?
Yeah, it's another
Wait,
level
no,
60.
I don't get. I was about to change class. Like, wait a second, I don't get XP anyway. Why would I change the class?
Alrighty then. Zarex, you wanna... Wait, where's Zarex?
Zarex, you wanna join again? Do you? Ooh.
Does he have a level 60? Thought he would.
The question is, they definitely have a level 60, but the question is, have they done the actual thing? Because if not, we could technically run them forward. It doesn't
Oh,
take
he
up to
needs to
10
unlock
minutes.
some of the Heavens War. He says he needs to unlock the Alexander raids.
So, Sash, how long do you reckon the Alexander raids take? Like,
I mean, if you want to watch all the cutscenes and stuff, it's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose I went through it not watching the cutscenes the second time, so I was going off the second time I went through Alexander.
Okay.
Because Grant doesn't know this, but I have like 30 characters in this game because
Why?
I do this in every MMO.
But you don't need the multiple characters, because you can just have the one character with the multiple, what's-a-mahoosies, the multiple classes.
Yes, but I also made these characters when you could have one transfer easily.
Ah, okay.
And then I still continue to make extra characters because I'm cheap and don't want to pay for 5 pages. Oh, it's this fight. I like this fight. This is one of the fights you can get about from later on.
Okay, you guys are... Level 90 is a lot more powerful than...
Lady, yeah.
Although, to be fair, the both of you are DPSs, so...
You want to see me do my big explosion move, Grant?
Hey, what, sorry?
Why is it not letting us go past? Is there a button we're a bit depressed?
Oh, no, we have to go to the other... We have to deal with the other, group
Oh, right, the other side.
Yep.
Where is my big explosion? I know there's a big explosion. Where is it?
There we go.
Titan Gopher.
That was cool.
Do I not have a... I swear to God,
Have you never seen Summoner at level 90, Grant?
No.
Okay.
Like, to be fair, I'm also not at level 90, so a lot of the shit that happens...
Say, do you want to see me kill this boss in like 2 seconds?
Yeah, I would appreciate that. Because I tried soloing this a long time ago, and it's like, nope, even with a my warrior at 80.
Sash show you the damage you don't deal a bunch of damage, Sash.
No target.
I can't have Bahamut phase yet. Oh, bye, Tatsu. Bye.
I've been joined.
They've been craned. Crane game.
Please help, I cannot destroy the deal. This again. Fuck am I on about? You ready for this? You ready for this? Explosion! Damn, that did a lot of damage than I thought it did, not gonna lie.
I realized it was probably a fair idea to get out of there.
Who's gonna get yoinked this time? Who's gonna yoinky splinky? Where it is?
I was hoping to keep moving.
Yeah, no, he kind of stuns your ass.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Grant, I got here. Oh, never mind, you got a bad guy there you gotta kill.
Yeah, he's not too bad.
It's fine, me and Tash can remember. Watch this. Up here, away am I?
Yay, now is it called Blammo?
Keep overestimating my damage.
Yeah, Summoner at high level is hella fun. I don't give a shit what Dazzy says about it being boring, he's wrong.
Dazzy doesn't join in on these things.
He is incorrect.
Alright.
Dazzy's incorrect about a lot of things.
Damn it! No, that didn't do what I wanted.
It wasn't the right one?
Nah, cause I had like 3. So in the first row, 3 out of the 4 of them were done, and in the second row, the second one was done. So I was it was a very hopeful thing of, oh, maybe I'll get the triangle to make the 3 lines. But nah. And the likelihood of me being able to keep to a triangle with... You know what? I'm gonna give a second chance. Let's do a shuffle and see where it pops them. That's even worse. Why do I bother? Alrighty then. What? It's like it's getting to 9:30. I should be heading to bed shortly. I cannot be staying up playing video games at this hour. I want to sleep. I want to like sleep in and then only drink and iced coffee at like 10 in the morning or something like that instead of like 7. It would be so good.
More Final Fantasy during the week?
I'll be off work next week, so... Or, sorry, not the week that's coming up, but the next week. So, maybe I'll do some more Final Fantasy then, like, in the actual morning or something like that. I reckon would be good. Because I also need to... Because, like, next week as well, God of War's free DLC comes out, and I need to make sure I have my God of War up to date and I know how to play that. Because I definitely... Because it's an epilogue DLC as well, was revealed. So it's not like just, oh, here's a roguelike that goes off anytime you want to play it. It's like, nope, here's one that's after the events of God of War Ragnarok, which I'm very much interested in because, you know, I want to know what happened to fucking... Oh, fuck. Why am I having a hard time remembering his name? Ifri. No, not Ifri.
Itatsu.
Yeah.
Do you want to help me finish my wondrous tales?
Sindri.
I was literally just about to send you the update. Are you getting off to? Question mark.
Alrighty then. I'll leave the two of you to doing that. I need to have a look at who is online and who it is that we're going to go and raid. Let's. Ooh, Scandy's doing a Scandy's playing a video game. They have not been streaming in a while, and it is always worth giving him a raid and giving him a nice warm helping hand, or what. Words fail me at this point. Alrighty then, we're gonna go raid into Scandian as they're playing A Plague Tale: Innocence. Hope any of you will join with me for Himbo raid. Show us your cutest guys, gals, and non-binary pals, or prepare to get swole. If you don't have the emotes, that's okay. You can use whatever other kinds of emotes you want instead that feel appropriate with it. Sash, Tatsu, thank you again for joining in for some Final Fantasy MMO night. I greatly appreciate it. When's the next time they might see you stream?
Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon?
When I get motivated.
When you get motivated. Alrighty then. And we'll leave it at that, and I'll just say, hopefully I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Bye.